Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
SOR headquarters, and there's no place I would rather be than with all of you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Wilbur Allen is going to be our guest tonight. We are going to have an absolutely great time. You know, I haven't interviewed him in 7 years. That's way too long. Way too friggin' long for this guy. You guys are in for a treat, believe you me. Let's go to the panel here and see who's in our chat room for roll call already. Race Fan in the gold medal position. Acreon with the silver. The gorgeous Cosmic Fleur with the bronze medal tonight. Grand Paul Holland, good to see you. Kathy Splash looking gorgeous tonight. She'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio for Kathy. To the left of the studio. Sue Gerson is back. First time in a long time. Mama Susan, Jack Clark. And there's Michael Leger. The Michael Leger, everyone. Smithy, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. Really do appreciate your love and support of this show on a nightly basis. Thank you so much, my friend. All right, moving on. We have John Swan, Nightmare. Thanks for coming on in. A Muse, another Kathy, is going to be signing autographs as well tonight. It's double Kathy time in the autograph section. Kathy Evans looking gorgeous tonight. She'll be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio. To the right for Kathy, to the left for Kathy. E. Niles, how's it going? Thanks for coming on in. Double Tim, JR, Oscar, good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us as we continue on with roll call. There's the gorgeous and talented Kira. Give us a wave, Kira, if you don't mind. Luscious Jules, nice to see you. Excuse me. As we continue on here, there's Richard Elmore. And who else we got here tonight? We got Sugar Britches. Nice to have you here. And who else? $5,900. Always a pleasure to have you. Dirty Filth. How you doing, buddy? The gorgeous Anne Celine from KPNL that broadcasts our show. And who else is here? Well, let's see. Oh, there's Uncle Dale and his Power Stash. Remember, if you're in Austin, Texas, and you see Uncle Dale, rub his Power Stash for good luck right through tax time. Mennonite Abe, nice to have you here. And who else is joining us? There's our man Fapster. We love him around here. And Blue Crossroads, welcome to the show as we continue on with roll call. And there's our man Millennium, Mr. Lurks a Lot, Randy Spurl, Wes H. Thank you all for coming on in. Who else we got? Simon Condon, TMI. Good to see you. Wham Bam Ham. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. And where are we here? Gorgeous. Larry Schulte is back. He is gorgeous, everyone. He tells me himself. All right, moving on here. Carfunibre. Big Ray, good morning to you from the Netherlands. How's your wooden shoes? Please let us know. The gorgeous Fidgety Aura. Thanks for coming on in. Robert Ray Ohm, welcome to the channel. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you don't mind. Double Tim, thank you so much. Yes, happy birthday, Butch Witkowski and Geraldina Roscoe tonight. Yeah, thank you so much. God bless you, Butch. We absolutely love you. And we miss you every day, my friend. All right, moving on here. We have Body Tech. Good morning to you. Shelly Montgomery, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Who else do we have here as we are running out of time? The gorgeous, sweetly morbid bear. There's dazzling Dawn Hendrickson. Thank you for coming on in. The lovely Marilena. Thank you for joining us. We're caught up, just like that. We're caught up. Excuse me. Remember, the Super Chat is a wonderful way, hi, gorgeous Pam McSee, to support this show and do what we do on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We say thank you to all the veterans tuning us in tonight because it's so much, much better with you guys here. And what else can we tell you? Oh yeah, you can do a little shopping at the SOR Vault. That's our store. Pick up some really cool SOR swag there, including your Merle shirts. Merle. Yep, Merle. 416, nice to see you. We're going to kick it off here, everyone. And we are going to have a good show tonight. Dr. Wilbur Allen is here. Do me a favor, my friends. Horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got Dr. Wilbur Allen. He's going to be coming on momentarily, talking about UFOs, ET contact, and how about a 1,000-mile-long UFO? You heard me correct. A 1,000-mile-long UFO. Then, in hour 3, we're going to head to the swamp, as we got another great story from Swamp Dweller. Fedora John returns for the unbiased UFO report. Shirky Poo's got the news, and we got the thought of the Dave as well. Engineer and author Dr. Wilbur Allen has been a contactee since childhood when he says alien beings implanted him. Since then, he has forensically documented numerous UFO sightings, most recently with night vision technology. He believes the implant has enabled his ability to see and photograph such objects. The small object placed behind his right ear caused him to vomit on a nightly basis for 7 years, as his body initially sought to reject the foreign body. Allen says that he has developed a unique night vision camera setup involving high-sensitivity infrared and an inverted telescope, which allows him to capture aerial objects and anomalies that would otherwise be invisible. Wow, this is incredible. We're in for a great show tonight. Dr. Wilbur Allen, it's been almost 7 years since
It's been a while, brother. It's been a while.
I am so glad you're back. How you been doing?
I've been doing very well. You know, I've been diligently moving forward in the quest to learn about these anomalous objects, UFOs as they're called, or UAPs, they're now referred to by the U.S. military. But with the advancements in technology, which exist right now, and the augmentation of that advanced technology, which you can create technology that's beyond anything NASA or any space agency has ever imagined. And I did that. I took NASA Hubble, I gave it a ton of steroids, and I turned it into a 4K motion picture application, which can see in invisibility.
No kidding. We're going to get heavy into that tonight because this is a big, big part of what you do in ufology and trying to solve this extraterrestrial mystery that we have here on this planet. But let's learn about you. You're almost a lifelong ET contactee. Take us back to childhood when you first saw them aliens in your bedroom.
You know, I was a precocious little kid, and one of the things I did as a child was watch cartoons like the Mickey Mouse Club, you know, Funny Company, things like that. Never have I ever seen or watched any material which showed extraterrestrials. So when I was 5 and my mother and father put me to bed, for some reason, I just did not go to sleep. I started playing with my little toys. The front door of my room bursts open, and in walk 7, 8 small gray extraterrestrials, 3 to 4 feet tall, extremely slender, looked like children in silver spacesuits. What was more abstract was they were startled to see me awake as I was to see them walking into my room. Even more, they did not communicate verbally, they communicated telepathically, and I could hear their thoughts. One of the things that was interesting as they came upon me was my inability to use my legs. They applied a dampening field to the cerebral cortex that stopped the energy flow, the thought flow to my legs. They also stopped me from screaming. I couldn't scream. Nothing was coming out. It was absolutely silent. It was interesting to see that I did not react to them as they expected, because normally what would happen as a child, the child would scream and go hysterically crazy. But in my case, I didn't understand why I lost the ability to use my legs or why I couldn't scream. So quite naturally, I was curious as to see what was happening. As they ascended upon me, one of them went to the left of me, another one went behind me, and the one that was directly in front of me was in my face, like within inches. I didn't feel anything. All I knew is the next thing I know, I was back in bed asleep. A week later, I started vomiting and I couldn't figure it out. So initially I thought it was a stomach ache. My parents thought it was a stomach flu, a virus, like most children get. Children vomit a lot. But it didn't stop. I vomited nightly. And even more abstract was when the US military doctors x-rayed me, they couldn't find anything in me because they x-rayed my chest. They didn't x-ray my head where the implant is. When the vomiting continually persisted, US military doctors gave me anti-vomiting medication, which I vomited out. And it just became nerve-wracking for my parents because they couldn't understand why I was becoming this sick. I didn't have cancer. I didn't have any other ailments that were known to medical science. There was no logical reason as to why I was vomiting. When the vomiting stopped, things became most interesting. And mind you, we're talking the 1970s. Elevator doors would open by themselves without me pushing the button. Street lights would turn on and off. Electronic watches, which were popular in the day, would not work on my body. They would just cease to work. Then the objects started coming out of the sky and landing in front of me. It forced me to physically document these events because, for example, in McGuire Air Force Base in 3rd grade, I was telling kids in my class that an alien was visiting me on a nightly basis. The teacher called my parents in and said that I was neurologically and psychologically unstable, and he separated me and they put me in special needs. What made things even more interesting is that 2 years later at McGuire Air Force Base, US military officers killed an extraterrestrial on base. They killed the alien that was visiting me. So, I mean, you have to look at things that happen to a person, especially a child. When a child talks about seeing ghosts or creatures or something like that, you have to think about the possibility that that child is indeed seeing multiple anomalous events, inclusive of extraterrestrials and the spirit world, which, in my opinion, can be one and the same. If aliens exist, and I know that is a reality, so do ghosts. For me,
I gotta ask you. Sorry for cutting you off right
that's
there.
not a problem.
How did you know that same alien that was visiting you was the one killed at this U.S. Air Force base?
The description by the MPs, military police, were exact with the object, the alien that was visiting me nightly, not coming by once in a while. every night this thing would show up. It would be there, like it would transport it down from the Enterprise. Just transport it would be there. None of the encounters were hostile. What I felt was it was transferring information into me, downloading data. You know, I didn't study photography, technically speaking, and I have a patent in film development. So how is that possible without studying the technology itself? So I believe that most of what I've created, most of what I'm doing right now is basically the direct result of extraterrestrial contact as a child. And it continues even to this day with the research that I'm currently conducting with this hyper infrared technology I call Franken-Hubble, which is Frankenstein Hubble. I created a 4K motion picture application which allows me to film gamma ray, X-ray, ultraviolet ray, and infrared ray simultaneously. So with that in mind, and the high sensitivity technology that I'm using, and most people don't realize that there are now cameras out there that have exceptional light gathering capability, like the Nikon D5 and the Nikon D6, which have 4 million and 8 million ISO capabilities, while NASA Hubble is a 1600 ISO capability. So we're talking about light years in advance. So I took this conventional technology and I augmented it for infrared capabilities and applied it to what's called a hyperstar lens. And basically what a hyperstar lens is a 14-inch telescope inverted. Instead of looking through the back of the telescope into space, I look through the front of the telescope to the back. At the back of the telescope is a 14-inch reflector. Basically what I created was a 900 millimeter f2.0 lens. And you apply a high ISO camera to a lens like that, the objects you'll see in invisibility become apparent. And the objects I'm documenting, specifically spacecraft, which, as you mentioned earlier, one object which flies by constantly, in my estimate, is 1,000 miles long. It becomes interesting when you start getting multiple documentation associated to these objects. And I've been able to document them nightly, even more abstract. When I document them, and I created a pool of analysis with my telescope. Unlike a lot of people, you know, you see these UFO guys, they're out there and they're scanning the sky left and right looking for a UFO. Well, no, I don't do that. I use a fishing hole technology. And you dig a hole in the ice, and you just work from that one hole. So on a nightly basis, I align my telescopes exactly the same, north, south, east, west, 90 degrees straight up. And in this fixed pool of analysis, I'm getting the same fish. How do you get the same fish? You know, even more, it becomes apparent when, for example, the USS Nimitz encountered these, what they call tic-tac anomalies, which are advanced biological organisms with nuclear-based electrical systems. I say nuclear because they have the ability to fold space. I've got samples of tic-tacs which appear from nowhere. Just, they're there, they fly through the frame. Before they get to the other side of the frame, they disappear. It's not like they're cloaking. They're going into another dimension. And I believe that when they started doing the experimentation with CERN and with HARP, that they did indeed open up a hole which allowed these objects to enter. Then there's the other possibility, especially associated to the Tic Tacs, that they came here when Halley's Comet flew by.
The last time, which was what, 1989 or something like that?
1989. I mean, that comet was so close you could go outside and you could see it yourself. Now think about it. What better way to put or transplant something into an atmosphere than by a passing comet? You know, the Tic Tacs, what makes them interesting is their microbial comparatives. And I was able to take microbes, just earthbound microbes, and match microbes to Tic Tacs. What made them different, however, is, microbes are not necessarily at a nuclear level. They're just generic electrical impulse organisms. While these Tic Tacs, which are 1,000 to 1,000,000 times larger. Now, what's interesting is the technology I created is not focused in deep space. It's focused in inner space. Inner space starts at 150 miles. When it gets to 200 and 250 miles, you're outside the atmosphere. At 350 miles is geosynchronous orbit velocity or altitude. I'm looking at things inside an inner space, which technically still is outer space, but we're inner space with these objects. And they're appearing. They're not flying into the airspace. They're just appearing into the airspace. It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Go on.
I want to ask you, as somebody who has been studying this since childhood, what kind of patterns have you been able to learn over the years, especially as you yourself have become more technologically advanced?
What I noticed, and again, I have to mention that when I set my telescopes up, I set them up exactly the same. Now we're talking about astronomical objects, which generally have randomness associations, which means, you're not going to see a meteor or a comet fly by on the same trajectory or the same velocity 2 nights in a row, 3 nights in a row. I'm getting events that repeat with exactness. 40, 50 days apart. I mean, totally illogical, especially when you think if this is supposed to be random, what this does indeed show is a high level of intelligence, because not only do these events appear with exactness, I can take files and put them on top of each other, and if I didn't know the difference, you'd think you're looking at the same file. However, they're 40 days apart. 40 days apart and repeating. We're not just talking about 40 days apart. I've got samples that appeared multiple times on a nightly basis along the same trajectory. It no longer adheres to the consistency associated to objects like meteors, shooting stars. And shooting stars, again, I'm not sure exactly what they are, because when you see in cartoons, you see that streak of light, it's a line and it just flies by. That does not adhere to a star or a meteor coming into the atmosphere. It's something completely different. Especially when you see it, it indicates that it has length association to it. It is a large object, like a 1,000-mile long spacecraft. Even more interesting is, with the research that I'm doing, I look at existing research that's already on the market. And one of the levels of research that few people even look at is the U.S. Navy Solar Observatory. And the objects documented by the U.S. Navy Solar Observatory telescope are consistent with the objects that I'm getting here on Earth. Even more is the objects that I'm getting here on Earth are 100% consistent with the anomalies documented by my associate, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was the lunar module pilot during Apollo 14. So we've got EVA-1 showing these streaks of light and these Tic Tac objects, which on the Apollo 14 data shows that these objects are no bigger than small golf balls, while for what we're getting by the crew of the USS Nimitz, the objects they're getting are the size of small cars. So wait a minute, what happened since Apollo 14 until now to give these objects a much larger volume? I believe that whatever Edgar documented on the lunar surface were extraterrestrial organisms, like the Tic Tacs that I'm getting with my infrared telescope. And there's no doubt about the fact of the matter that the data recorded by Apollo 14, which was dismissed by NASA, dismissed meaning they didn't believe any of it. They were saying that what Edgar got was glitches in the camera. They were making up all kinds of nonsense that was not consistent with what Dr. Mitchell himself viewed, experienced as he was filming these things. It's different when people say to me, you get these things and you didn't really see it, did you? I mean, blah, 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 blah. Wait a minute. I have it on camera, but then we got to stop there because some of the objects I'm getting right now, which will light up my mother, I'll run outside and look at the same position in which my telescopes are focused and see absolutely nothing. So that says to me that there's a very strong possibility that these objects and events that I am documenting are in invisibility.
Cloaking themselves, pretty much.
Basically.
So we got 3 minutes here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. And trust me, my mind is racing on questions that I want to ask you about this. But do you think then, by your own research, that there are these cloaked motherships hundreds, if not thousands of miles?
Let's not say cloaked. Let's just say they exist in invisibility. First of all, for them to be cloaked, I'm not really sure because, see, let me backphrase on that because the technology I create is so far out, I'm not really sure its total capabilities. But what I'm seeing without doubt are objects that humans can't possibly see. Impossible. We're talking about the limitation of human vision. During the day, if you know anything about photography, during the day, the human eye is ISO 0. At night, it is ISO 800. ISO 800, anybody who knows anything about photography, if you try to do something at night, you're not going to get squat, especially stars, and galaxies, and things like that. The objects I'm getting are in ISO 400,000. Now, 400,000 is light years more advanced, more sensitive than any human eye. And at that level of invisibility, they're there. They would land in front of us. We just couldn't see it.
Can you explain for our audience what an ISO is?
It's sensitivity. Generally, I mean, we're talking old school photography, which technically doesn't exist anymore because it required film and chemical development. But back in the day, they made film emulsions with salts, which were sensitive to different levels of light. The higher ISO, like, first of all, the general sensitivity film was 25 ISO, which was extremely low. With 25 ISO film, you can go out in bright sunlight and your pictures would look magnificent, no overexposure, nothing, because it's designed specifically to absorb a lot of light. But as things became more evolved photographically and people wanted to take more pictures than during the day, they created film sensitivities, which allowed for less light to be photographed and enhanced in development. So at 400 ISO, you had substantially more light sensitivity than at 25 ISO. And at 1600 ISO, you were substantially far advanced to 400. And at 32, you were just absolutely off the market. You could do technically anything. But that was film technology. And now, with the camera technology that I'm utilizing at ISO 4 million, I can go in extreme darkness and get a photograph that looks like it was taken during the day in full color, like perfectly clear. So I went with that level of technology, understanding that it wasn't necessarily designed specifically for infrared applications. We're talking conventional photography. So I took this 4 million ISO camera and converted it to full spectrum infrared. It's the best thing I've ever done because it opened the doors to things that no human could possibly see, what's known as the unseen. I'm seeing the unseen.
On that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Dr. Wilbur Allen talking about the technology, about how he finds UFOs up in the sky. We are going to get into some major stuff. 1,000-mile long UFO. We're going to talk about it next on Spaced Out Radio with Dr. Wilbur Allen. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear. I want to say hello to Gong Show. How you doing, buddy? And who else has showed up? Drew Morris, the Drew Morris. Welcome back, bud. I know Karen Smurl is out there somewhere. When she enters the chat room, give her a big warm hug and say hello. She's a former guest on this show. I just absolutely adore her. So make sure you say hello when Karen Smurl gets in. I'll let you know. Excalipurful, good to see you. Hey, I have a question for you, Wilbur, from Joe in the chat room, asking what the logo on your shirt is.
I do a thing with some paranormal researchers. It's called Richmond Investigators of the Paranormal. I not only do UFO research, I look for ghosts with the technology I created. I may have captured something, but I'm not sure yet. I'm holding that data until I get a full analysis specific associated
Nice.
with that. Yeah. That's why I was
Very-
saying earlier, when we differentiate ghosts and aliens, there's a thin line there, brother. They're all one and the same.
Oh, I bet.
It's a
I
UFO.
absolutely- I haven't seen a UFO in so long.
Dave, you need to visit me, brother. I see him every night. That's kind of weird. When you say that, how can a person say they see UFOs every night?
I used to.
Even more bizarre, I believe that one of the objects that I encountered in Area 51 in 2013 is following.
Really?
Yeah. It communicated with me telepathically. It was absolutely abstract.
That sounds fun.
Oh, brother, it scared the crap out of me. It told me to pack my stuff and leave immediately. I took that as a threat. But what it did was it warned me that a Jeep with a M16 crew of Area 51 security personnel were racing to the spot where I was taking pictures in restricted airspace. Aliens told me to leave, and I left. By the time I was gone, that Jeep didn't find me anywhere. But I came in, got the samples, and left, while the BBC crew I was with lost everything. They had their films taken.
Really?
They gave them the cameras back, but they took the videotapes out of those cameras.
Blue Crossroads wants to know what your PhD is in.
My PhD is in advanced imaging systems, Hyper Hubble. I created advanced Franken-Hubble technology, 4K motion picture.
Very cool.
Oh, dude, nobody has anything like it.
Have you tried hooking up with NASA or anybody like that?
I'm on LinkedIn, and I've got the #2 scientist of NASA on my page, and they're aware of my research, but it seems kind of strange that they're trying to ignore me. One of the things that's even more interesting is the head of U.S. Navy Command is following me on Instagram. The head of the Navy, is following me on Instagram. I believe that their data basically showed something. My data shows the real deal, and they know it. We're talking full color infrared. They're talking monochromatic FLIR. I mean, there's a big difference there.
All right, is your technology patented?
It can't be patented. That's the problem. I just made something from existing components, mind you. It's not like if I had a 3D printer, I could probably do it, but I don't have a 3D printer that would have that kind of capability. I don't have a 3D printer, but I took existing components, I augmented them, and augmenting meaning I physically took them apart and found locations in which I could convert them to infrared. An infrared conversion basically means you just put a filter in, or different kinds of filters. And I made it so I can change the filters on my telescope. I have to disassemble the head to do it, but it became it's specifically designed for infrared.
1 second here. I want to say a big thank you to Tim and Smithy for the super chats tonight. The super chat is a wonderful way to support this show on a nightly basis. I apologize for my coughing fit. Something caught my attention, and I just started laughing, and I just couldn't control myself there for a second. Oops. Thank you to all the veterans out there tuning us in. Really do appreciate it. Also, a big thank you to all of our regulars who are in the chat room nicely checking things out. Hi, UFO Lover 115. And we're getting there. It's Friday. Usually between Wednesday and Friday, my voice starts to hurt too. All right, let's get ready for the second half hour here coming up right now. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Dr. Wilbur Allen. We are talking UFOs all night long, and this incredible camera that he has been able to develop, which really lights up the sky. And when we talk lights, we're not talking stars or planets here. We're talking UFOs. Dr. Allen, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Dave. And by the way, it doesn't generate light. It's photographing in invisibility. So the sensitivity of the camera itself doesn't require a light source like FLIR. FLIR requires a forward infrared beam to light up its subject matter. This tech doesn't work like that at all.
Oh, wow. You
I
once
got that technology, by the way, from Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. Well, during the Vietnam War, they used 70mm cameras, and at a specific level of development for the reconnaissance that they were generating with the F-4 Phantoms and the B-52s, which were mounted with these 70mm cameras. So I took their technology and took it to a completely different level, because the technology that existed currently, which was different than the technology that existed then, enabled me to take it to that next level required to see these anomalous objects, which are basically surrounding our planet. And I'm telling you, when I make that statement, some of the objects I'm getting, which you think are stars, they're not stars, because these Tic Tacs are flying behind them. You can see the star pass in front of it.
the technology that you developed with this, what made you do that? How did you create it? Where did you get the idea from?
I knew when I did for Discovery, BBC Discovery rather, was uncovering aliens. They sent me to Area 51 and Sedona, Arizona, which in my opinion was more extraterrestrial than Area 51. Sedona is indeed an alien base. Without a doubt, they're there. The objects that I got in Sedona, and I used a 20mm lens with the Nikon F4, which at that time was ISO 204-800. Keep in mind, we just left cameras that were limited to 400, 1600, 3200, and 6400 ISO. And I'm telling you, I'm talking about a camera that's sensitive to 200,000 ISO. So it gave me, in reality, full color night vision. And I started to think, wait a minute. Now, if I have full color night vision, and I remove the standard filter from in front of the CCD of this camera, I should be able to see in full spectrum infrared what the eye does not see at 2700K, 5000K, and 10,000K, which is standard band human visibility. So I now know that with the data that I was able to accumulate with extreme high ISO cameras, that these objects, which the eye does not see, and which is referred to in the Bible as the unseen, it's beyond our range of visibility. And even more, what makes this more abstract is if they landed in front of us, we wouldn't know it. Invisible.
That does make sense, though. It does make sense, because I know a lot of ET contactees who literally, I've been in rooms with them where they're like, there's an alien standing there in the corner and I'm looking and there's nothing there, but to them they're fully visible. It's not out of psychosis,
It
or
is
it's
not a psychosis. It is factual matter. See, it's different when you can show. You know what bothers me with people that say they have alien contact? Isn't it odd? None of them have any proof, real proof, other than Betty Hill. Betty Hill. Wait a minute. Betty and Barney Hill. Betty had samples photographically which were dismissed by the people back then. But when Kathy Martin, who is Betty Hill's niece, showed me the photographs, they were consistent with the objects I documented at the U.S. Capitol building using a Nikon F5, which was the state-of-the-art 35 millimeter film camera. So, you know, we now have an issue where if these things should come, would we be able to see them? You know, we're limited. Brother, let me tell you, beyond 800 ISO, we can't see squat. It's like, might as well be Stevie Wonder, because you just don't see it. Even more, have you stood outside and you may see hundreds of stars, but when you look to the telescope, there's thousands of stars there. Why isn't it you cannot see the additional 900,000 stars? It's because they exist in a light level which is way beyond our capability. What makes one think that they're not there? Even more, what makes us think that we could see a life form that exists in gamma ray, or a life form that exists in X-ray, or a life form that only exists in ultraviolet, or a life form that exists in infrared, which none of the 4 bands of invisibility humans can see? So what makes us think that we can see them? If we can't see in that band of light, they can come here, they can be sitting in a room beside me. We wouldn't know squat. They're here. They're invisible.
all right. I got to ask you this question, because if I don't, I'm going to kick myself in the butt. And I don't want to do that. All right. Because my legs aren't that flexible.
Damn, that's too bad.
I got to know about this 1,000-mile long UFO that you saw.
It's not that I saw it, that I documented. And not just documenting one time. We're talking 40 different documentations of this object, which is basically an anomaly which NASA Grumman first documented 8/12/1960 during NASA Project Echo, which they launched this massive, perfectly spherical metallic balloon for communications or intelligence communications capabilities. So they documented these streaks of light, and the streaks of light documented by Grumman 8/12/1960 showed, and we're talking about they were using a 50 millimeter lens. If anybody knows anything about photography, a 50 millimeter lens gives you the same perspective as the human eyes. What you see with the human eye, this lens would replicate with a camera. So they photographed these streaks of light, one of which the observer described as spanning from state to state. But wait a minute. Did he just say a spacecraft that spanned from state to state? Some states are 1,000 miles long. So we're talking about a massive spacecraft that they saw in the atmosphere from ground level and photographed using HIE infrared, which is what the Grumman ground tracking satellite technology utilized, or it was developed by the Central Intelligence Agency in the early 1960s. 1960 to be exact. So the data generated by Grumman in 1960 started to manifest into my research. You know, I started filming, and then initially, as I was filming, I would get streaks of light, and I would think, like most people thought, a inconsistency in a camera glitch. But then I started getting that same streak of light on multiple occasions along the exact same trajectory, manifesting into the atmosphere in an exact manner in which it was initially documented, which meant that, and the objects I'm getting are not flying into the airspace, they're materializing into the airspace. There's obviously a level of quantum teleportation used by whomever these extraterrestrials are for them to be able to manifest in our atmosphere. Even more interesting is I've got some samples of this tubular spacecraft, which looks like a massive tic tac. And when I tell you, if you put a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier beside it, it would make the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier look like a single-man rowboat. Can you imagine how big an aircraft carrier is that humans make? And we're talking about a massive boat. The object that I saw would make that massive boat look like a small fry. And I documented it. It did not fly into the airspace. It materialized incrementally, and my camera's filming at 60 frames per second. Documented that incremental manifestation into the airspace. It's a little different, you know, when you start talking about events and the documentation of events. Most events that have been documented at, even some of the data that was specifically documented during the U.S. Cold War, and we're talking film technology, not high-speed digital or high-speed infrared technology that I'm using right now. But the events that were documented, which, oh, wait a minute, let me not mention this. Steven Spielberg, while filming Jaws, documented this UFO. And it looked exactly like the object that I'm telling you is 1,000 miles long. And it's in Steven Spielberg's film. And I think they know it couldn't possibly be like a after effect of the camera, because when Jaws was filmed in 1988, they were using Panavision. Panavision uses Eastman 5247 motion picture stock. You don't get that on motion picture stock. We're getting what they got was a spacecraft that flew through. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I ordered the Blu-rays just so I can get that one piece of data off of that motion picture. But the objects that they were documenting obviously have been here for a minute, because during the celestial event in 1561 in Nuremberg, they have this illustration of these streaks of light. And the streaks of light were red, white, blue, and then there were tic tacs. And then there were these other objects which looked like little dice that Jack's little girls play with, you know, little jacks.
Yes.
Those jacks were some kind of spacecraft of some sort. When I filmed Uncovering Aliens for the BBC Discovery in Sedona, I documented an anomaly which was tubular, and it had these lights, like port lights, along the sides of it. It's illustrated on the tapestry during Nuremberg, 1561. It's still here. The streak of light that I'm talking about, that's at least 1,000 miles long, it's on the tapestry. Even more bizarre are the illustrations in the Bible, the Holy Bible, showing, without doubt, spacecraft that I'm getting, which consist of this energy field that encompasses them as they warp by, were seen during the days of Jesus. And they have these as illustrations. So it's not like I'm sitting here, you know, talking about some things that could possibly not be, you know, how you'd be delusional and, you know, I'm just guessing. This is no guess. We're talking about specific data. You know, it's easier to make a point. You know, I did a MUFON lecture and I put all this data together. Do you know they couldn't absorb all the facts because it was too much? It became overwhelming, more so than it would be helpful to a person. When you start giving them too much of something, you know, it's like taking a sip of whiskey and the next round you drink the entire bottle. There's a complete difference in effect. When you down that entire bottle, brother, you're going to be sick and you're going to be twisted. We're talking about...
I want to ask you, you have all of this footage and everything. I got many questions coming in the chat room. Where can people see this?
You can go to Dr. Wilbur Allen YouTube channel, or to be more specific, if you want to look at the objects I'm talking about that exist in invisibility, I would Google, let me pull up my screen, objects in extreme invisibility, beyond the range of human vision. Objects in extreme invisibility, beyond the range of human vision. And also for the Tic Tac objects that I'm getting, Google advanced extraterrestrial organisms, higher order intelligence. And it takes you specifically to my pages. All of the pages there are hot link pages, meaning the videos on the pages go directly to 4K motion picture. And believe me, there is nothing on earth like this. Basically, what I did was I took the high definition data that's output from my Hyperstar lens, and I'm using Avid Boris Effects technology, which is motion picture production technology for feature films and all the television shows that are currently on the market. It works for me to have this technology because my work is being seen on network television. So I provide for network television broadcast quality material. I found it necessary that with the data that I was getting, to limit most of which I put out there, because again, when you start talking about giving somebody too much of something, you know, like a person can only absorb but so much information. I'm trying to bring my light source back up here. There you go. Before the brain goes into overload mode, you know, there's some people, and what's interesting when they have these encounters, and you could be around a group of people. I had an object land in front of me in Baltimore, which I photographed, and it stopped, let me photograph it as it took off. I was with 18 people. Do you know not one of the 18 people I was with remembers that event? What? You were there standing with me. You saw it land. Nobody remembers a thing. How is it that the human mind blocks things out? You know, when I was on the street one day in Washington, D.C., I was on 13th and Monroe Street, and I looked up, and I saw the tubular craft, which I said makes the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier look like a single-man rowboat. And I watched it fly by. There were people on the street with me watching it. And I was in awe when it vanished Klingon style directly in front of me. But we made things even more abstract. The people around me, they just walked off. Didn't say a word.
Wilbur, we got about 5.5 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Do you mind if we go to your YouTube channel
Yes.
and show some of the videos? That we'll just have to do a great job at describing it for our radio audience of what we are seeing here. But this one you filmed back on February 2nd here. I mean,
let it go. Let it play, bro. You see that thing move at warp velocity? And we've filmed in infrared. Look at it in slow motion.
so you film this in infrared for our radio audience. You film
Yes.
this in infrared, and basically there is this long streak that is going
That
right
ain't no meteorite. Think about that. It does not have the consistencies associated to any astronomical object. That's a spacecraft that was documented by Grumman in 1960. It's still here. It's also in the tapestry of Nuremberg. See how it vanishes at the top of the frame? It went into another dimension.
It does seem to phase out.
It vanishes.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yes, it just seems to phase itself out.
It's gone. It didn't dissipate like a meteor would dissipate and fragment. You would see that. This is not doing anything like that. This is also 400,000 ISO.
Well, let's go to another.
Go to
Let's
another
go to
one, man. Go to that one with that's this ball of light. Go down right there. Play that.
All right, here we go.
That's a Tic Tac. Look what happens when it enters the frame. See it power down?
So that does look like a Tic Tac. There it is, powering down, almost like it's slowing down, coming into the atmosphere, and then
It's getting larger. If you look at it, no, wait a minute, it's getting smaller. That means it's leaving the atmosphere. It's moving away from the lens. But the infrared analysis is most bizarre. Take a look at this. See the field around it? If you want to see something interesting, I've got 18 takes of this specific high energy Tic Tac, none of which powered down. On the other samples that's on my YouTube channel, you see it run in full power like it is when it first initially presents itself in the image frame. Do I think humans can deal with that at a technological level? We don't stand a chance. And
I hate to say this. This video reminds me of, especially, it reminds me of the old game of Pong. With the old dial. It looks like one of those Pong. I'm not trying to make fun here, but
no, look at the energy field around it. That's what makes this interesting. You could see the differentiations in the energy field this object's putting out, even more abstract. I would play there are other videos that have the exact visual. When you close this down, you want to play those when it shows the energy staying 100% consistent. Close this down. Go to that one right there. Up, right there. Go to that.
so
Now,
this one looks like a rectangle.
Look at the front of it. That's what made this completely unique, is that this one specific object flies by at least 14 different times along the same trajectory.
Now, a lot of people will say, well, that looks like it could be a satellite getting a little flare off.
Satellites at 350 miles in orbit. This is not a satellite. Impossible. See, what would make this an impossibility is when you play the file that's directly beside it, or the multiple files that I have, all showing the same object. What makes the differences is the field association. So here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different energy fields. You also see that the field is rotating in a clockwise manner.
That is pretty cool.
It's invisible. Invisible. I go outside. I watch this thing light up my monitor. I go outside. There's nothing there. Nothing. Nothing. Invisible.
Let's check out another
200
one.
miles up. It's big.
Let's check out another one here before I just got to see our timeline, but where we are before we got to go to break here. We are about a minute 30 before we have to go to break here. And
scroll. Plates. You see the one directly next to the one you played. It shows 2 dots. Play that.
All right, we got about a minute here.
That's a dual comparative. Look, they're along the exact same trajectory and moving at the exact same velocity. 2 days apart.
So these are 2 different films.
2 different films on top of each other. I also have quad layer analysis showing 4 different files. But look, it's the exact same object filmed on a different day. And it's along the same trajectory, moving at the exact same velocity.
Incredible.
Look, this is 4K data. This is not like U.S. Navy stuff, bro. That's why the Navy is following me. Thank you, Admiral.
Your videos here are pretty darn cool.
Nothing on Earth's like it.
You can definitely see that. Same shape, obviously the same coloring, because that's how you're filming it.
It's spectrum. It's when I deal with infrared, I can go red, green, blue, yellow, magenta, and cyan, and it shows in all of those different color gradients something different.
Right.
Whatever this is, it's an organism.
On that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. We're checking out some videos and describing them to our radio audience here on Spaced Out Radio with Dr. Wilbur Allen. It's UFO night all night long. We have them for another hour here. There's UFOs everywhere. All you got to do is look up, and sometimes they're right there in front of you, and you don't even see them. This is what we're dealing with tonight on Spaced Out Radio with Dr. Wilbur Allen. We continue the same conversation here in hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio next. Fantastic.
Dude, the last time we did the interview, I didn't have this level of tech, nor did I have this quantity of data.
That's fantastic. Hi, Karen Smurl. How you doing? Mm-hmm. Who else joined us here that I haven't seen?
You know, all the
Mystified.
text that I have on that page, dude. Can
Well,
you
we're
hear
going
me?
to continue it. Yeah, we're going to continue it for sure.
Dude, all those Tic Tacs, you know, I've got about 8,000 different samples. There's only 10 of them that match. I can't match any of the others. It's like, what kind of organism is this? It's completely unique. Look, play all the ones that show the same object. Like, go up, 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 up. One more, now slide over. No, go back down one level, down. Go, you see it? The one with the that looks like the exact, not the starship. Move over. Two more. Right there. Look at the date.
January 12th.
Same stuff. Constantly. So I have multiple samples of this specific anomaly, which is the only one that I can match. Of all of my data, this is the only one. And notice, it's on the same trajectory.
UFO and spy plane historian Jim Goodall is in our chat room tonight, and he says, "This is great, Wilbur."
Thanks, Jim.
Hi, Terry Brown, owner. Nice to have you back, buddy. Dave is drooling with woo right now. Drooling. I have so much drool over me right now. I'm going to have to shower after the show.
Dude, I made contact with aliens. Do you believe me?
Do I? Oh, yeah.
Well, think about it. Kid, that guy got taken by aliens as a child. How else can I explain how I have what nobody else has? This ain't like the Navy's material.
And once again, for fair use purpose, we do have permission to use these on our show.
Brother, listen to me. Somebody's got to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it, Dave. Dude, how many people have ever seen anything like these organisms other than the pilots of the USS Nimitz?
This is incredible. Look at all this that he has, people. I want to see this one.
Play some of the streaks of light. It appears and disappears.
So it's actually pulsating in and out.
In and out.
Now you have your camera positioned. You just choose a spot in the sky.
No. I align it north, south, east, west by axis. And then I use a balance on the XY position of the telescope itself to give me a precise 90-degree straight up alignment. It is a fixed pool of analysis. Nothing changes. Stop. Play the rest of the videos. Dude, I get the same objects, even in higher definition and closer. I let it go at full speed for the initial examination. Then I slow it down to 10% its actual velocity. Mind you, I'm filming 60 frames per second at 1/100th of a second shutter speed. This is pretty quick for absolute darkness. And there's no light source other than these objects. You want to see this in slow motion. It's coming. In my estimate, that spacecraft there was about 1,000 miles long. Come on. I usually let it dissipate because when these objects fly by, you can see their contrail, which is even more abstract. There's some kind of energy hole that they cut through our atmosphere that leaves this like ion trail that's associated to them. No human can see this.
Yeah, that is just way too fast for the human eye.
Impossible. It's even more bizarre. It's 1,000 miles long. If my lens is focused at 200 miles, how big was that? pretty big. Let's just
All
say you
right.
put 10 aircraft carriers beside it.
Give me 2
And they
seconds
still
here
have
because
plenty of room.
we got about 1 minute here, and we'll continue the conversation when we return. I want to say a big thank you to Tim and Smithy for the super chats tonight. It's a great way to support what we do on Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis. Yeah, there's the scowling man. Greg O'Brien has entered the chat room. Hi, Greg. How you guys doing? You guys had a great show on Disclosure tonight. Earlier on, before our show, we absolutely love you guys over there. Hi, Sensational Sherry. How are you? All right, guys, put your questions in capital letters. If you don't mind, it's easier for me to get through. We're going to go through a little bit more of this footage, and then we are going to take your questions as well. All right, here we go. We got like 5 seconds, everyone. So let's rock and roll here.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever we are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us there, Clam? Let's see here. Wallfish. Wallfish is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire, checking out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Dr. Wilbur Allen. We are looking into everything UFOs. Why? Well, because we can, and we're having a great time with him tonight, checking out these bands of light that he is filming, and it's absolutely incredible, these UFOs that he is picking on up. You can check out his YouTube channel by just typing in Dr. Wilbur Allen and hit that subscribe button, ring that bell as well, which I have done personally. I hope you do too. Wilbur, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Not a problem. So I know I have a bunch of questions in our audience right now. I'm going to get to a few of these for you before we get to more of your video. So we're going to bring to the forefront here. Mark is wondering, where did you get your doctorate from?
Howard University. And believe me, it was way beyond any of them. No one knew what I was doing anyway, so it was basically a ticket to walk. I was light years ahead of everybody on that campus.
All right.
Technology myself.
Philip is wondering, is there a military police report on the alien that was visiting you that was later killed?
They can Google alien killed at McGuire Air Force Base.
All right. And let's go to another question here. I'm just scrolling up in the chat
Dude,
room
if I
here.
could find those teachers that put me in special needs and show them the data now, they would need more than it depends on, bro.
Have you ever tried contacting Lou Elizondo to show him what you found?
Lou's on my Facebook page. You know, those guys, they're doing their thing. They've got their tech. They've got their samples. What I got is completely different. So, you know.
All right. Obi Fled is wondering, Dr. Allen, have you tried sharing your data with UAPX or contacted Avi Loeb about your research?
Avi Loeb completely ignores me. I've contacted every astrophysicist out there. The only person that actually shows any interest is the head of science at NASA and the chief of U.S. Navy Command. which are followers of mine.
All right, Excalibur wants to know, what shape aperture are you using in these videos?
Shape aperture. Well,
Or
there's
what
no
type?
aperture there because it's fixed. You know, I basically created a fixed f2.0 lens. It's fixed. That aperture is completely open, wide open. What makes it interesting is, again, it's light gathering capabilities using a 14-inch reflector. So we're talking about inverted technology. We're not looking at it, if you look at it from the front of the telescope, where it's an f11 telescope, and basically at f11, if you're not aimed at a planet, you're not going to see squat, especially in deep space. I'm looking in deep space at f2.0 at 400,000 ISO. I could see technically everything.
Mystified Man is wondering, says, the military baits them with nuclear assets. What could civilian researchers use?
Dude, I'm nowhere near any nuclear power plants, and I'm getting these Tic Tacs on a nightly basis. Whatever it is, there's a base near here. That's one of the things you look for. When I showed you the object along the same trajectory, it's coming and going from somewhere. And based on that data, I can technically triangulate and guesstimate the base or point of origin of these objects. But I would need additional support, which would obviously come from space-based ground tracking satellite technology, which I don't have. I'm looking one way. I need something looking back at me, which is not happening. But what makes this interesting, since my pool of analysis is set up exactly in the same manner, is I'm getting consistency in all of the events that I photographed, like I showed earlier with that Tic Tac anomaly, along the exact same trajectory. What is the probabilities of that? It's astronomical. It's like winning the lottery on a nightly basis, which, by the way, I should start playing the number, because if I can do this and get these objects nightly, then in theory, I should be able to hit the lottery on a consistently daily basis.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
That would be phenomenal. But on the technical level that I created, I've hit the lottery on a daily basis. Like, dude, look at stuff that goes on for miles. It's all the same. How is that possible? Does that mean it has some kind of prevalence, consistency in our airspace? Obviously so. They're here. We just can't see them. Even more abstract is my data indicates Earth is completely surrounded.
Let's check out another video here. This one intrigued me a little bit. So here we have another object flying through the sky, kind of a rod-like object.
Notice it's modulating. Obviously, it would be invisible to humans. You see the sparkling go across the sky? I don't know what that is. My cameras couldn't lock onto it. I'm using 3D Max tracking technology. When I film these objects, I only have one sample, but then from that one sample, I can make multiple samples. And I look at those multiple samples in different wavelengths. And we see that whatever this object is, its consistency is primarily energy. It's some kind of energy-based organism. And it's rotating clockwise in a clockwise manner. Its field is modulating. They all have that one consistency, uniform consistency. But outside of that, they're all different. Stop and go to the next one. It shows technically the same thing, but different. And then I keep getting these along the same trajectory also.
Well, let's try another video here. They're always the same. They always look to be kind of in that Tic Tac shape or that rod shape.
Is that them? They're all play the one that's like yellowish, greenish. Go over. This is technically during dusk. And there's a field around this object. What makes this interesting is it's microbial comparative. There's microbes, which I have on my page, which I just mentioned earlier, that show the exactness associated to microbes and these objects. The only difference are, as above, so below, micro and macro. The micro and the macro, The macro one is much more advanced. This one was entering, and I believe that it was entering into the cloud layer, which was about 40,000 feet. That was what generally generates its diffusion, because it would need something in specific. Notice it glows once it's inside that area, which is more viscous than the rest of the image. That's cloud matter. It was penetrating at the cloud layer. The cloud level ceiling at that day was 40,000 feet. So this object is 40,000 feet or 8 miles away.
Jeremy is wondering, how do you get the camera to lock onto the object?
In 3D Max, keep in mind, I only have one sample. It usually plays at the top, which was that one clip that was filmed at dusk. And that clip may have 1,000 frames or 1,600 frames. I take that 1,600 frames in 3D Max. In 3D Max, they have virtual camera technology. And virtual camera technology is digital camera that when I put them into my 4K video environment, I don't lose the quality. It doesn't lose any quality at all. I'm able to do close-ups. And that's how I'm able to generate these close-ups with the 3D Max technology. But there's only one clip. My camera's fixed focus, and it just it just records what's directly in front of it only. I'm not tracking anything. I'm not doing anything. Now the clip's playing in slow motion. That's the master clip. That's what I have originally. Then I take that clip into 3D Max and I track it with a virtual camera, which I program. And every time this thing moves, the virtual camera moves. So I'm able to track it with uniform consistency. That's how they make motion pictures, folks.
Let's test out a couple more here for our audience.
Play the ones that's quad, like the quad ones. Don't go up, go up, go up, up. Yeah. Play that.
Well, so here you have 4 of them.
Wasn't that unique? They all move at the same velocity. Look at that quality.
So for our radio audience, what are we looking at here?
We're looking at 4 4K motion picture files of one specific tic-tac anomaly, which I called an high energetic tic-tac. This, unlike the other tic-tacs, always flies by in high energy mode. We're talking scientific analysis here. Isn't it easier to show with a comparative level of data 4 same objects? I'm showing these 4 objects running in real time in one image. Notice the field associations, they're all exactly the same.
Mr. Eon, who has just absolutely gorgeous hair and just a voice of God, he is asking, I do wonder if you reduce mass using a Bose-Einstein condensate, would it also reduce volume, i.e. size?
You know, I'm not sure of that because technically speaking, what the problem is I'm having with this data, I can't actually tell you where it is in space. I'm guessing that this thing is flying by, say, 150 miles up, maybe higher. It's in inner space, obviously. What makes this interesting is when it flies by some of these objects which appear to be stars, it's flying in front of them, not behind them. See that? No one noticed that. Are those stars? And why is this object flying behind them? Like, it's behind it. The planet's surrounded by whatever these objects are, and they are baking to be stars.
Let's go to Gloria's question. What shape UFO do you see most often?
The streaks of light in this tic-tac object. And then there's the spheres, the perfectly spherical objects, spheres. The ones that landed in front of me, those 18 people in Baltimore, and they can't remember squat, and I got pictures, and I say, hey, look, you were there. They don't remember.
This is a comment, but I am going to read it. This from Excalibur. What bothers me the most is that the objects all seem to be following an orbital path and not really deviating from a non-accelerating body. How do you explain that?
You know, that's what makes it interesting. I believe whatever this object is moving in a fixed manner, which that's why I'm showing that most of these samples that I generate of this object, they're all moving at the same velocity in the same direction. But what makes this even more abstract is for my camera to record these, that object has to be massive. And it's not like something that, play the streak of light that you just passed by. Like the one, not that one, right there. Go, no, down, go down, go down, go down, over, no, 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 up, up, one, that one. Like all the others, it appears and disappears, goes, flies through, vanishes. I've got one that's even perfect. It's doing the opposite. It appears stationary, then goes to warp. When I do the infrared scan analysis, when they do the multiple colors, it shows that whatever these objects are, there's an energy field associated with them. Go to another one, Dave. Believe me, this stuff, there's thousands that are even better than this. You want to look at the ones with the tails, like there's almost 5,000 videos on my page. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Can you go to the next page? Play the one there. You just missed it. Yeah, play that one.
This one right here.
That object appears with an energy field.
So we're looking at just something that just shows up and then streaks in. Like 1 second it's there, the next second it's not.
How am I getting the same objects constantly like this? How is this possible? Explain this to me. I could be playing the number, like I said, winning the lottery nightly. These were initially documented by Grumman during Project Echo. The problem is the people that documented them have expired. So, and it was also an analog level of technology. So there's a lot of data that we're overlooking because we're in the digital age. But the analog stuff that's out there will make your hair stand up. When I do these, they're going in real time, but then there's the slow motion element associated to them farther on into the clip. So I do an extensive amount of research.
The red cigar, this one. So here we're seeing a red object
appear and disappear.
Like it's almost on a loop. Like comes in, touches, and then takes off. Vanishes.
You might be using the atmosphere to get escape velocity. You could be doing a lot of things, you know, but notice it's not a uniform object. It's not like, you know, when you think a spacecraft is going to be completely tubular. This is some kind of organism.
Karen is asking, do we have an estimated speed at which these objects are moving?
If I'm getting them from 200 miles down and farther back we go, the slower an object appears to be moving. If it was much closer to us, it could possibly be 600, 700 miles an hour. We couldn't see it. Even more, it's beyond our range of visibility. We're talking about 400,000 ISO in 470 nanometers, which is gamma ray X-ray. We can't see there. We can't see any of this. That's what makes this bizarre, because what we think these stars are, they're not stars at all. They're sitting there in our atmosphere.
I really enjoy Enzo's question here. Do you have any examples of regular meteors for comparison on this?
Well, other than the stuff that's on the internet. Like there are plenty of meteors, like the meteor that was filmed in Russia that made all the glass in the buildings explode. You know, that video. These are not consistent with any known astronomical object. They're straight uniform objects. And even more, NASA knows about them because it's on the surface of the lunar on the lunar surface during Apollo 14 with my associate Dr. Mitchell. He documented all of these same objects. I hate when they do the commercials.
I know. I gotta get myself one of them YouTube passes.
Okay, well, now we're talking two different videos. Notice.
So this is on September 2nd and September 3rd of last year.
Yes. And I'm taking both of these videos, put them side by side. How is that possible?
So what we're seeing here is these light rods that just kind of show up.
These things are not small. They're miles long. Keep in mind, like I said, for me to see this from the ground 200 miles up, how big is it? Even more abstract. It has some kind of energy contrail, like a tail. The one on the immediate left shows more of a red tail association. That's the craft that I'm getting that's 1,000 miles long. It's flown by like, when it flew by, I thought, will this thing ever end? Even more abstract when I saw it, when I looked over my shoulders. I looked from the left side to my right side. I couldn't see the front or the back. It went by like that. But it let me see it. So it's different. You know, some of us, not only are we photographing these objects, we can experience them. It's almost as if they want us to see it. And I believe that the aliens that visited me when I was 5 wanted me to do this specifically.
Very cool. Dr. Wilbur Allen is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got 2 minutes left before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. I want to ask you just a couple questions about what we're seeing here. I mean, this is happening on a nightly basis for you, where you're able to track and photograph / record these anomalous objects. You know, I have to do my due diligence with just asking, you know, about, there's a lot of space debris out there that is burning up. Have you filmed?
Think about uniform consistency. There's where the argument falls apart. What I'm showing you has uniform consistency. And what I'm showing you is 200, 300 miles long. They're relatively large for my camera to be able to see that if I'm focused at 200 miles. And with the samples that I am getting, whatever these objects are, if they were much closer to us, we could not see them. They're moving much faster than the eye can comprehend. Farther up, more far away you are from the actual lens itself, the slower things become. The closer things become faster. From the ground.
Have you ever caught any that just stop, like allow you to take a photo?
In Baltimore, 308. I'm sorry, it was 9/03/2008. I just bought the world's first full-frame digital high-definition camera. It's the world's first. In 2 days owning this camera, these orange spheres came out of the sky, landed directly in front of me. What made it abstract is the orange spheres were red hot like the sun, but there was no scorching associated to the trees where they touched down. There was no indication anything was there. But as the objects took off, one of them stopped 100% directly in front of me and let me take the picture. Then it went to warp. What I noticed in the photograph was I could see the orange sphere, but there were 5 or 6 other cloaked ones surrounding it, and I could see that.
All right. On that note, we have Dr. Wilbur Allen, another half an hour here on Spaced Out Radio, as we continue to look into the UFO world with his incredible videos. You can just go on YouTube, Dr. Wilbur Allen. Check him on out for yourself. Do you believe? Do you not? We're going to find out when we return on Spaced Out Radio next. Stay tuned. Your questions are up. All right, we are clear.
It's interesting. My research spooked my family. My family basically evicted me because I was doing things that was scaring them, and they would complain about stuff that I was showing them. And it wasn't my fault. You know, it was like I created this tech and I created this fixed pool of analysis, and I just so happened to stumble upon plethora of extraterrestrial spacecraft. You know, I mean, that's something it's like, again, like hitting the lottery. But the problem becomes, again, as I mentioned earlier, is the overwhelming level of data and the data that I'm generating. It's not like the stuff that we normally see in television. It's, you know, it's this high definition here.
I'm going to be right back, dude. I got to hit the bathroom. I'll be right back.
I got to do the same.
All right. I am back. We got about 45 seconds.
Well, I got here 15 seconds before you did, dude.
All right, on.
I got here 15 seconds before you did.
We'll start off with Uncle Dale here. We'll wait until we're back on the air.
Mike does not have uniform consistency.
I'll just wait on that. Just wait on that. Big thank you to Todd, Mystified, Jeremy, Obi, Black Triangle, Tim, and Smithy for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Don't forget this weekend, Lynn Wallington's back with Spaced Out Weekend, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The After Hours show follows. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, as well as TikTok on Spaced Out Radio. We continue on for the next half hour with Dr. Wilbur Allen and the UFOs he is filming, and it's almost on a daily basis. Type in Dr. Wilbur Allen on YouTube. You'll be able to see literally hundreds of videos that he has captured for you. Dr. Allen, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio.
It's thousands of videos I've captured for them, not hundreds. And we're talking a plethora, a boatload of data. You know, and that what makes all of this really interesting. The probabilities of that are highly illogical, that it would be something that would be naturally occurring, or randomly occurring, rather. What's happening here, it's these objects are showing up with frequency in the same pool of analysis. Now, mind you, I'm only looking at one section of space with my telescope. It doesn't deviate. Always the same section of space. And in the same section of space, I get the same objects.
All right. Uncle Dale's a scientist as well. And he is asking, how do we know that these traces are not just micrometeorites? That would be the simplest case.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is I mentioned earlier that this is a 933 millimeter lens. It's not a telescope. We're talking about a conventional telephoto lens at f2.0. And I'm only focused at a limited range, starting from 8 miles to 200 miles up. How many meteors would be in the atmosphere? Like, you know, with uniform consistency, we're talking objects. If we're talking meteor technically is a stone or some kind of other shape. As it enters into the atmosphere, it starts to dissipate. It burns up from the heat friction associated to it entering into our atmosphere. These objects don't have that level of uniformity. These objects have uniform consistency. It's all based on uniform consistency, especially the streaks of light that were documented at 8/12/1960 by Grumman ground tracking satellite technology during Project Echo. So we're talking those specific objects. What makes it even more is the samples that I'm getting are a 100% match to samples that were taken by Dr. Edgar Mitchell on the lunar surface. So we have that as a basis of analysis, and I'm not just flying off the top of my head without doing some backwards research as to the possibility of other people getting these very same objects. If you try to look for these objects on the internet, they just don't exist. So you have to understand that with the technology that I created and the level of light that it is looking into, that in a level of invisibility, the probabilities that these are astronomical objects is highly illogical because they're not invisible. What is it? Dark matter? Invisible matter? Something that's invisible? You know, it's what I was saying, you know, with the level of human visibility at ISO 800, beyond 800, we can't see a thing. And the things that I'm getting at are at ISO 400,000. That's just light years ahead of what the human eye could possibly see. These objects would be so faint that there's no possible way you could see them even if you were right up close on them. They're just beyond our range of visibility. So with those properties, we can assume that they're not astronomical objects like a meteor or a comet. You know, I mean, I looked through archives to see if I could find anything like what I was getting, and I did. Grumman, Dr. Edgar Mitchell. I mean, you know, they've known about these objects. The Nuremberg Tapestry from 1561 showing the exact same streaks of light. It's the more defined ones that I have in my sample that one should be more concerned about, because with the red samples that I was able to get, you could see those in objects in extreme invisibility on that chapter of my website. Are these objects which are specific? They are specific in one element, or two elements rather, that they are surrounded and encompassed by this red energy field, which comes from the craft itself. And I believe whatever this energy field is allows it to be charged in a manner in which it could move at warp velocity inside the atmosphere and not cause a sonic boom. You know, one of the things that when you get aircraft flying at high velocity, you get a sonic boom associated to it because it actually pierces the sound barrier. There's no sonic boom associated to these objects. My technology is designed to record at 7.1 DTS surround sound. So if anything flies into the frame from the left and flies through the flight, you hear it as it passes through. So you want to definitely, in some of the files in my research, put your headphones on, because these objects are making noises. And especially the samples that I was getting in P53 restricted airspace, Washington, D.C., you know, I aligned my cameras, and I didn't have the telescope technology I had, but I did have advanced infrared. I had infrared at ISO 200,000, which my infrared camera right now is 4 million. But at 200,000, so I was getting objects that were just incredible.
Julie is wondering, what adaptation have you made to your equipment, if any?
Converted full spectrum infrared. And then for the telescope technology, I made it so that, you know, one of the problems is when you look at infrared filters that are designed specifically for spatial applications, we're talking a 14-inch telescope here. One filter for that 14-inch telescope is like $8,000. So I figured a way to use a reduced size filter. And the reduced size filters, you know, they run anywhere from $200, $400. Some of them are at $1,000 rates. Depends on what frequency you want to look into. But I made this capability from technology that already exists and made modifications to the technology that already exists that allowed me to place an infrared filter directly in front of the lens in a manner in which it doesn't necessarily need the $8,000 and $10,000 filter, which normally would be used in the actual application itself. So I was able to cut corners, but in cutting corners, I did so in a manner in which there was no loss in visual quality, and I'm now able to do, with variability, recording in 4K motion picture these spatial objects. This is not some tech most people have.
All right, let's move on to a new question here. This one comes from Greg. He is asking, isn't dark matter just a placeholder?
I pass. I couldn't answer that. I mean, we're talking dark matter. Dark matter is like is and isn't, you know, like in the middle. In a way, being in the middle is kind of difficult. Like a black hole absorbs light, and then as the light passes through it, where does it go? That's an impossibility. It's like somebody who asks me if I ever been into a wormhole. That's an impossibility also. One can't possibly know, but for the possibility itself, that is, could be, and it couldn't be. I could not answer that. That's why I would have to pass. It's beyond my realm of thought. All I can basically talk about is the objects that I am able to present with the technology that I have. It's a little bit more than, you know, speculation, and most people want to be like Neil deGrasse Tyson, which doesn't know a thing. He wants to be able to make these conclusions based on nothing, you know. So we're talking about the objects that I get when they do appear in a manner in which I'm recording them in this infrared technology. that we have to consider, is it something that would be, feasible for most people in practical applications? And basically, the tech that I created would be more applicable at a militaristic level.
All right, let's move on to another question here. This one from Ray. Dr. Allen, do you also record, even in this little section, less straight shooters and fast curves?
Straight shooters and curves. I'm assuming that he's meaning based on trajectory itself. Well, the objects that I'm bidding are basically straight shooters, but what's even more abstract is again, you have to go to the page that deals with objects in extreme invisibility for the samples that I'm talking about specifically. But these objects that I get, 1,000 miles long with this immense red energy field around it, and it has this green energy tail associated to it, which looks like a green laser beam. And then when it flies by at warp velocity, and I'm filming in high speed infrared mode, it's 60 frames per second at 1/100th of a second shutter speed. So it's able to freeze whatever it is that's 200, 300 miles away. That's obviously thousands of miles long, but it's the way that they fly by, it's the trajectories that they fly by through, it's the way they appear, and in some of the samples, the way they're along that same trajectory and they disappear. Like it's there, then it's gone. Like even when I slowed the film down to 5% its film rate, whatever this object was completely vanished instantly. So it doesn't adhere to the characteristics associated to most things one would commonly associate with, like meteors and shooting stars and comets and stuff like that, that enter into the atmosphere, and you can see through the tail that they're burning up. This stuff ain't like that, brother. They're uniform in consistency. The consistencies are uniform throughout the entire object itself. The light levels are the same. It doesn't change when it moves through the frame and recording it at high speed. It's what makes it interesting is how it manifests and then how it vanishes from the airspace when I slow the film down. It clearly shows that whatever these objects are, they're using either a spatial portal or quantum teleportation.
Nicola, is asking, what brand and type of scope are you using?
The Celestron Edge 1400 with the Hyperstar converter. You have to modify it for infrared.
All right.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. It's not cheap.
Gloria would like to know, what is the most interesting thing you have experienced or seen?
The mothership that made a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier look like a single-man rowboat. It appeared like you would think if you saw a Star Trek episode and a Klingon star cruiser decloaks itself, it appeared just like that. It flew by slowly, then just like it does in Star Trek, it completely vanished. Believe me when I tell you, it makes an aircraft carrier look like a single-man rowboat. It was massive.
Nicole would like to know, what is the doctor's thoughts on CE5 or HEIS?
Not familiar with it.
CE5, Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind.
Well, after having face-to-face alien contact, that's kind of a moot question for me, because I believe that the events that I'm documenting are clearly the result, and based on what I experienced as a child and the implant that's in me, is a direct result of this implant. And in some of the samples that I'm getting, they're appearing on command. I'll say, okay, up here, I want you to come up with a red tail. Shows up with a red tail. I say, okay, show up with a green tail. Materializes with a green tail. In this exact same fixed pool analysis. So there's a telepathic link associated, or some kind of uplink telemetry associated to the implant that's in me, that's allowing these objects to fly directly over my lenses. The probabilities of getting this, it's like 1,000,000 to 1.
Okay.
They said not real. Like I said, Dr. Mitchell documented the object on the lunar surface, the exact same object that I'm getting.
Jeremy would like to know, have you caught any craft bouncing around?
I'm not sure if you want to call it bouncing. What I get is they appear, disappear, appear, disappear, appear, disappear, appear, disappear, appear, disappear. It's like I don't think it's bouncing. What it's doing is going between dimension. And in doing so, the camera is documenting only what can be documented at the time. And I'm getting these objects that are here and not here at the same time, bouncing. None of the things that I'm getting are like up close. Keep in mind, this is a fixed pool of analysis. I can't change the focus. I can't change the aperture. The only thing I can change is the sensitivity of the camera and the shutter speed itself. It's 900 millimeters f2.0. If you look up the lens, it doesn't exist, but if it did exist, a lens like that would be easily $150,000. It could be manufactured yourself. But to make it so it's infrared requires a slight bit of modification. So I want you to keep that in mind. But I'm getting objects in a fixed pool. It's not like I can focus. When I preset my lens, all my videos are preset. It's not like anything changed. The focus didn't change. The shutter speeds and the aperture at f2.0 obviously doesn't change. Nothing changes. So there's uniform consistency in all the data. Because there is uniform consistency, it also shows without a doubt the frequency associated with some of these objects, which can't possibly be astronomical. Because when you talk about meteors and micrometeors and things of that nature, they're random. What I'm getting is not random. It has uniform consistency. It shows up with a frequency. In fact, I've got 1,000 samples along the same trajectory of a streak of light, but the differences are its proximity to the lens. Some of them, like the red one I'm talking about that I definitely know is 1,000 miles long, it flew by 14 different times and I was able to record it. And what makes these recordings interesting, it is the same object at different altitudes. Like it's playing around, Whatever it is, it exceeds the range of human visibility. We can't see it.
One of the great veterans who listens to our show, Surf Chair, is asking, when you spot a dot showing energy field, couldn't that just be the heat field or a heat field?
Heat field. The problem associated with that is this. Multiple samples. I have multiple samples of the same object. It's all showing the same thing. What is the probabilities of that? We're talking about an object that is in invisibility, and we can't see it. So what man-made material is it made from, and why is it we can't see it? What makes it interesting is when I show you these samples with this object, with this massive energy field, it lights up my monitor. I run outside, and there's a miniature telescope directly beside the master tube itself. I don't see a thing, nothing. So how could that be something that would be naturally generated? And the other thing we have to consider is we're not looking at in conventional light. We're looking at 470 nanometers, which is gamma ray X-ray. We can't see that. So it's definitely not some kind of heat source. It's definitely a byproduct of these objects. But whatever it is, it's another level of energy that we can't comprehend.
All right, let's take a look at another question here. This one from Apollo, who is asking, Dr. Wilbur, have you received any communications from these craft?
Telepathic, yes. That's when I tell you when they appear on command. It's even more abstract, is that you can't say this is random. But my camera is running starting from 6 p.m. to 6 in the morning. So it's running around 12 hours, does not stop. It'll tell me to look up, and I look at my monitor, there it is, each time. And then I'll ask it to appear in certain ways. I'd ask it to appear white with a green tail or red with a green tail, and it would appear white with a red tail or white with a green tail as I commanded it to. On command. That's like winning the lottery again. That's highly illogical, improbable. And I'm getting things that are constantly the same, as I mentioned in my fixed pool of analysis. It's like catching the same fish in the twilight zone every night. You catch the same fish. And if these were satellites, for example, here's what makes this interesting. People would tell me they could see satellites. That's absolutely possible. Satellite at 300 miles away, size maybe of a small car. Can you see a small car parked a mile away? You can't tell me you can see that small car parked 350 miles away. So I know without a doubt that that person who's telling me that they can see satellites missed their medication. Without it, you should not miss your medications. The problem is that these objects, you know, for me to see it, and you're looking at the screen, which is a motion picture perspective. And it's not like we're looking with a wide angle lens, because it's a 900 millimeter lens. It's telephoto. So with a telephoto lens, anyone that knows anything about photographs, telephotos have this tendency to compress, make things look flat, especially things at a distance, because it has this focus limitation associated to it. So we're looking at a 933.3 millimeter lens focused basically at 200 miles. And I can tell that these things are coming and going by the differentiation in size. And when they appear and they're large and then they get smaller, that means they're leaving. If they start off small and become big, that means they're entering into the atmosphere and becoming closer to the camera. So I look at that as a way of analysis, determining where exactly these things are, but keeping in mind this is a 900 millimeter lens. It's not easy to say exactly in terms of the altitude associated to these objects. It could easily be 150 miles, 125 miles, 200 miles. It could be anywhere in there. Because of this telephoto lens, it makes it look much closer than it actually is. But what was bothering me with these samples were the stars and these objects flying behind what's supposed to be a star. It's a star, it's out in space. How can this object inside the atmosphere be flying behind this object? And how could this object fly in front of it? Like, this isn't a star. They're 100% stationary. They're faking like those stars. And there's thousands of them. They're surrounded us. They're just sitting there.
That is fantastic. All right. Jonathan is wondering, do you have any vids using standard cameras, and do you or have you used a psionics camera?
No, all my cameras are augmented Nikons. I don't use anything else. It would be impossible for me to answer that. You know, it's not like I'm experimenting with things. I had to work specifically with the technology that I utilized. When I worked with BBC Discovery, and the material I generated for uncovering aliens had to be broadcast quality, so I used 4K at that time, which was a Nikon D4. And with the Nikon D4, I was getting at high ISO, which at that time was 51,400 to 51,400. I was seeing UFOs appear in Area 51 and appear in Sedona, Arizona, as if they were coming through wormholes in 4K. So I use one camera, just Nikon.
Well, Dr. Allen, it's been a quick 2 hours with you tonight on Spaced Out Radio.
Oh, please don't go. Please don't go, Mommy.
I appreciate you taking the time, my friend, to join us and showing us your YouTube channel at Dr. Wilbur Allen. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, brother.
What amazing footage. Amazing footage at Dr. Wilbur Allen on YouTube. You can check out his thousands of videos. Coming up next in hour 3, we're going to enter the swamp. The fedora-wearing John Hudson is going to join us as well for the Unbiased UFO Report. We continue with hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio, coming up right after this. All right, we're clear. Great show.
Yeah, try to keep it straight and easy. You know, I mean, stuff that I do is so far out there. A lot of people can't possibly think that they could get to this level. You know, it took me years to generate the knowledge that I'm able to do with this infrared technology that I have. It's not like when they get the tech, they're going to be able to use it. You know, it's kind of weird. I was teaching this at Howard, an undergraduate, and 90% of the students that I taught, they couldn't grasp it.
That is awesome, man. That is just absolutely awesome. I really appreciate this. Really appreciate you.
Next time, let me know. You know, to do it again.
Definitely. My
It's
friend.
a little different when you have something to talk about. That's what I mean. You know, it's not like I'm sitting here making stuff up.
No, I totally hear you,
man. Based on evidence.
I totally hear you.
That's why when they were asking me questions I can't answer, I'll pass on it. I'd rather not say something I don't know than to say something and make me sound like I'm a fool. It's called an empty hat if you're a Mason. I'm not going to become an empty hat. So.
Well, Dr. Allen, I got to run here because I got to prepare for hour 3 here. You get to head off to bed. I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, bro.
Care.
See you later.
All right. Take care. Dr. Wilbur Allen, everyone. I had a lot of fun with him tonight. I can't believe it's been almost 7 years since I interviewed him. Wow. The fedora-wearing John Hudson is next. Thank you to Apollo, Surf Chair ×2, Todd, Mystified, Jeremy, Obi, Black Triangle, Tim, and Smithy for those amazing super chats. Absolutely appreciate the love and support you guys give us on a nightly basis. It still blows my mind. It really, really does. And we got another great hour here left with you tonight. I want to remind you that coming up tomorrow and Sunday, I have to quickly run out of town tomorrow, so I'm not going to be able to update the website until Sunday. I apologize for that, but I'll get next week's shows up on Sunday. And but you got Lynn Wallington here on Saturday and Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for Spaced Out Weekends, followed by the immortal Big Willie, John, the fedora-wearing UFO Wonder, Gemma Jade, and Thin Lizzy for After Hours Saturday and Sunday right after Lynn's show. And I will be back on Monday. Who's my guest on Monday? Let me take a look here. Brian Stavely. We're going to get into the Mandela effect on Monday. I cannot wait. Brian's a good guy. Excuse me. Very, very good guy. And also, we're counting down the days. 1 week from now, Lynn Wallington will have Women in Ufology, 6 hours of UFO talk on our YouTube channel. We highly recommend that you guys check that on out. It's going to be a great time. Lynn and I will be speaking at UFOCon 2022, March 25th through 27th in San Francisco, California. And if you want to come join us there, UFOCon2022.com is the website. And April. Who's in for April? You know what? I was counting with Science Bob today, who's joining us in Vegas. Looking like Nicole Sakich, maybe Grant Cameron, Rick Doty, George Knapp, Jim Goodall, Michael Schratt, Science Bob, Melinda Leslie, and Lorian Fenton, Geraldine Orozco. Who else? Nate Rudd, Hallmark Corey, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and Carter Burchart. I'm telling you, that is a jam-packed event. That's just special guests coming to hang out with all of you who decide to come to our Las Vegas event. And we're going to see if there's more that will be there as well. We're going to see if there's more who want to come down. So Las Vegas, the Fan Zone with SOR. We're going to do a live show. It's $25 to get in. That's the only thing we're charging you for. You hang out at the Golden Nugget with us. We're going to be there all weekend long. I'm flying in Thursday, not leaving until Monday. And you can hang out with us, hang out with anybody. Like if you see one of us at breakfast time, or you see one of us having some dinner or grabbing a drink or, whatever, hanging out at the pool, just come talk to us. That's what it's all about, is just a fun gathering with friends, April 22nd to 24th at the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas. It's going to be great. I really want to see. We have about 30 confirmations. And I know there's a bunch of people out there who are saying, yeah, I'm going to try and go. I want to go. It looking like it's going to go. I just got to work some things out. But we got about 30 confirmations right now. And yeah, I want to give away swag bags. If you're one of the first 50, I need to know before March 20th so I can get everything printed up and everything ready to go for Las Vegas on April 22nd to 24th. So make sure you come on out. And don't forget, Merle and I have a brand new channel called Canada's Great Unknown on YouTube. It's really spooky stories. Would love for you guys to go support that as well. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone who is tuned in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clamio? Let's find out. Wallfish. Wallfish is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, as well as TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time for us once again to head into the swamp, where our resident swamp dweller takes us on a nightly journey into the spooky stories.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. This happened sometime around 10 or 11 years ago, and I still remember every detail like it happened to me last night. My mom, my friend, and myself were driving home from a concert super late one night, sometime around 1 a.m., and we were driving through some mountains. I think we were around Harrisonburg, Virginia, or somewhere near the West Virginia border. I'm not exactly sure. The roads were seriously winding, and it was so dark you could go only a couple of feet ahead of you. The roads were seriously winding, and it was so dark you could only see a couple of feet ahead of you, thanks to the headlights of the car. My friend was asleep in the back seat, and she luckily didn't miss any of this. I, on the other hand, was sitting in the front seat trying to help my mom stay awake. Everything was going as expected, just normal driving, when literally, out of nowhere, this huge, and when I say huge, I mean probably around 6 foot long but still very big, thing flies directly in front of our car. Somehow, I was able to really see a lot of this thing, even though this whole thing lasted maybe only 10 seconds in total. This creature was, like I said, about 6 feet long. I only say this because it was longer than the front of our car. It had these big black and dark gray wings that were like bird-like, or maybe even moth-like. They were against the sides of it, kind of like when you put both of your arms down by your side. It was flying sideways and was right in front of our headlights. So that would mean it was only a few feet away from the ground, and it was flying incredibly fast. We probably should have hit it considering we were going 60 miles per hour, but somehow we didn't. The creepiest and most disturbing part of it was that the body looked so human, and it had this gray and white bald head. My mom and I both saw the exact same thing, and thank goodness that she did see it, because I'd feel even crazier if she didn't see it. We kept driving and never stopped. We still to this day keep trying to explain it away. Maybe it was a bat or an owl, but I've never seen a bat or an owl that big. There's just no way. I did some research, and years ago in the 1960s, there were a ton of Mothman creature sightings around West Virginia. I guess he's back, or maybe he never left. For a while now, ever since I was a kid, I've been fascinated with Point Pleasant, West Virginia. My dad used to tell me stories of the Mothman and how it terrorized the small town back in the 60s. It's because of his stories I started doing research on other cryptids and urban legends, like skinwalkers, wendigos, the Jersey Devil, and many others. Point Pleasant was the closest town to me, so I made it a goal to drive down there for a weekend on the 53rd anniversary of the first Mothman sighting. On Friday, November 15th, I picked up my stepbrother and stepsister, and we headed down to West Virginia. They were both skeptics. They didn't care about the legend. I honestly don't know why they even wanted to go in the first place. We made it to the small town around 3 p.m. and checked into the Low Hotel. A couple of hours after going into the Mothman Museum and checking out the other small shops, my two friends, Katie and Joanna, made it down for the weekend trip as well. We all met at the Mothman restaurant where some locals knew we were from out of town and enjoyed us talking about the small town. One of them asked, "You folks go check out the TNT area yet?" I responded with, "Not yet, but it's on our to-do list." This is when our group thought it would be a great idea to go there at nighttime and head to the area where Mothman was sighted by the two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Mallet. We bought lights and headlamps and headed to the area at around 8:45 p.m. We approached a gate that was blocked off so no vehicles could pass by, and decided to get out of the car and walk into the wooded area. It was really dark out, and all we had to guide our way was our lights we brought and my GPS leading us to one of the bunkers. We made it to an opening in the forest where I believe the factory's building once stood, before getting demolished. It was at this time my stepsister and Joanna saw a pair of eyes staring at us from the woods. Whatever it was turned around and walked back into the forest. They assumed it was a big animal, and for our safety, we headed back to the car. As we passed the gate, I noticed it could be lifted with two people, and we decided to open it and head in with my car. As soon as we passed the open area, we found a bunker to our right, parked the car, and went inside to get some pictures. Our one friend was beginning to get a little too uncomfortable, so for her sake, I told her we will come back when it's daylight, so we could be more aware of our surroundings in the wood. We got back in the car, and I pulled back into the road. Before we could take off, Katie and I told the group we were going to close the fence since it was closed for a reason. We got out of the car, which was facing away from the fence, and the only lights we had were my brake lights on. We picked up the fence and slowly started moving it back into place. That's when I saw it. A pair of glowing eyes staring at me from the bunker we were just at. They easily stood 6 to 7 feet off the ground, and it was just staring at us. I stopped moving and I said, "Katie, do you see that?" She responded with, "What?" and looked up and saw the eyes too. The moment we both were looking at the eyes, it became red and started coming toward us. I yelled, "Katie, run!" And as she screamed and ran for the car, the creature pursuing us let out this horrifying roar. Nothing I have ever heard in my life before or since. As Katie ran, she fell and hit the ground hard, and I didn't move till I knew she was safely inside. As soon as I got her in, I ran. The eyes were easily 15 feet away from me at this point, and I jumped in the car and pressed on the gas as hard as I could. The road to get out of the TNT area is a 35-mile-per-hour road, and I was easily doing 100 to get out of there. We were very shaken up about this event. but it honestly felt like history was repeating itself 53 years ago. Once we got back to the hotel, we gathered our thoughts and I tried to think logically on what we saw. We looked up wildlife local to the area and tried to compare the noise, but nothing matched. I'm not saying it was the Mothman, or Sheep Squatch, or Wendigo, but something about the way it stood and started coming towards us made me think otherwise. My group and I have decided to invest in tech to record our cryptid hunts next time we go. We want to return back to Point Pleasant soon to try and capture what we saw on camera. Cryptid hunting is no joke. What we felt was genuine fear, and we could have died that night. Yes, it might have been a bear, it might have been a mountain lion, but you got to be careful. You don't know what's out there, waiting in the dark for its next meal.
And we say a big thank you to Mr. Swamp Dweller for another amazing spooky story adventure, this time on Mothman. Find his channel, Swamp Dweller Reads, on YouTube. Just type in Swamp Dweller. That's what I do. I listen to him every night before I go to bed. He's so entertaining. So entertaining. All right. It is that time once again where we bring in the fedora-wearing John Hudson for the unbiased UFO report. John always keeps us up to date on the unbiased UFO report of the world's news and what's going on in the UFO world. Mr. John, your fedora is looking fantastic tonight.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Happy to be here. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. That was quite an intense show, so I'm impressed all of you have the brain energy to stick through for the rest of the show, so we appreciate you hanging around. Yeah, it's been kind of an interesting week, hasn't it?
It very much has. Lots going on in the UFO world, including a report from The Drive, Warzone, a strange story about F-22 jet fighters being scrambled in Hawaii. What went on here, man?
Yeah, so like this is the crazy story because depending on what angle you take from it, you can come out of it with vastly different opinions and emotional responses. My first, when I read this story, was that of embarrassment. Basically, I mean, this is basically a device that it's an air dirigible, and but the Zone wrote a really interesting article about it. This drone was in the air and was scrambled, and basically identified as something of an object. And the problem is that this object is the perfect example of a false positive for the UFO world, right? Because from a distance, sitting up there, like this thing looked like a little white Tic Tac, right? And so essentially, a bunch of people call it in. It's quite high up. They scramble a couple F-22s. In defense, it's not like they had choices. F-22s is what they fly out of Hawaii, so that's just what you get when you sort out of that region. And now another angle I would take from this is anyone who thinks that we can't identify balloons probably just had their evidence handed to them, because this was actually a balloon doing things that other people were debating whether balloons can do, right? Because this balloon can stay in a position for a very long period of time at a very high altitude and can stay airborne for, I believe, up to 30 days, depending on weather conditions. So, and this is being used for telemetry. Essentially, it's being sold to the U.S. military for telemetry. And so it's kind of a perfect example of a false positive, but it's a false positive that got false positived immediately, right? I mean, it's like, okay, they had to send 2 F-22s up for it, but my guessing is that was primarily an exercise based on procedure of analysis and so forth. But I mean, it was a very quick turnaround before they realized what it was. And so to me, this kind of lends, credibility to the idea that in other cases where we have ruled out balloons, that, perhaps, we were actually qualified to do so.
So we do have balloons that can act like UAP, is what you're saying.
No, I would say that we have balloons that can meet some of the characteristics that people were debating whether balloons could do or not. There was debate as to whether a balloon could stay in the air for more than a couple days. This one can do 30. There was debate over whether a balloon could stay stationary for a long period of time. This one can. That is where the similarities end. This ship is not doing any significant maneuvers. It's not doing any kind of behavior that looks odd or non modern physics sort of it's just a fixed object in space.
All right. Well, you know what? There is another one debunked. Another one debunked. I wonder if we'll get another Batman balloon picture out of it.
Yeah, really. Yeah, but definitely, it was a good move because once this shows that these pilots and all these analysts are actually right on the ball and so forth. But the other thing that I should point out for those of you that want to read into it is that they do go in and talk about the UFO aspect of this and the fact that many people did call this in as a UFO, and so this really is a perfect example of a false positive. It's good stuff.
Okay. So, I mean, there is good news. I mean, people are looking up in the sky. They are reporting these, and it looks like in this case, the United States Air Force took it seriously enough to go send up a couple of fighter jets to go investigate it. But in the end, obviously, it was proven to be a balloon. Can we trust that it was proven to be a balloon, John? Because we've heard the balloon story before.
I believe the company that made it has bragged about the fact that it was their balloon. I should double check that, but I believe that's the case. I believe that the company who makes it actually got involved and said, yeah, that's us.
Okay.
But I should double check that because we do have the make and model number of the balloon and the company that makes it and like all the information on them. So, but the thing is that I don't. It's hard to say. You can't necessarily say that the bringing out two F-22s in any way, shape, or form was relational to the threat. Okay, and I know that it's very tempting to make that assumption, but don't make that assumption because essentially anything that is of alert that's in the airspace above that area, they investigate. And the only thing they send out is F-22s. So you doesn't matter what you are. You can be the most advanced and the most mediocre aircraft in the sky. And if you violate that airspace, you are going to be met with a pair of F-22s. So that's just whatever. That's just kind of like, that's like the ante for the poker match, right? And so people shouldn't imply anything from that. That being said, it did meet that minimum qualification to send up two F-22s, which I forget what the numbers are, but like per hour, they're not cheap to run. So this was a real event. And don't get me wrong, I have to imagine that those F-22 pilots will jump at any chance they can get to fly, but no one's going to be wasting the fuel or mapping the flight or doing all the resources that are involved if there isn't a justification, because I guarantee you that this is being post-analyzed, whether they did it right and whether they behaved properly, and they were going to be aware of that during the process, so they would have dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's with the awareness that there was a really strong chance that this would be looked at later.
All right, let's move on to another part of the story tonight where there's underwater UFOs. No, it's actually the military testing out underwater unmanned submarine drones.
Yes. And the funny thing about this is that I can remember back in 2000, I think 11, I was at a military weapons conference, and I had a guy come up to me, and he introduced himself as CIA. I don't necessarily believe he was, because he wasn't wearing or behaving in any way, shape, or form as he would, but that's who he identified himself with. And he was inquiring some input for me on an automated subsystem to be deployed in how should I say this, pirated waters, okay, to deal with the pirating situation. And we've been building, drones that go underwater for a very, very, very long time. What's cool about this is not a one-off. This is a full program where these are going to be very advanced automated subs that get launched from a submarine. And so we have, a percentage of our submarines have dry docks built into them. So beneath the water, you can dry dock something. And so essentially this thing will launch from the submarine, and it will be able to do things like explore regions where pressure is an issue, explore regions where there's concerns about triggering response from a military presence. I mean, it's basically what you're going to end up doing is deferring much of the risk that a sub faces onto that drone. That drone will now become the spear point that faces all that thing. But what that also means is they are going to be, not to say that there's any resistance today, but if there was any resistance, there's certainly going to be a lot more freedom to explore things because they do have an unmanned way of doing so, right? And so the reason why I think this is very, very interesting is while we've never been able to get these confirmed, we've all heard enough stories that I think we can say with some amount of confidence that at the Nimitz event there were underwater objects that were witnessed, and I don't really know what sort of ability we had to really go after them. And I would argue that that's what this is. I'm not saying it was designed for that, but it meets that characteristic perfectly, because if you could essentially, get this in the water in say 2 minutes or less, and have it, tracking something where you could continue on with whatever mission you're on, and now you can give this drone this side mission that's an important curiosity, but maybe not enough to retask the whole ship, right? I guess what I'm getting at is it's going to take a long time, but I would not be at all surprised if this system specifically in the coming years becomes a focal point of underwater observations.
Well, I mean, it also saves a lot of lives and time too.
Oh yes, I mean, without a doubt, because I mean, they're look. I mean, we can go a hell of a lot deeper than what we tell people we can go. We can probably even go a hell of a lot deeper than most analysts think we can go, but there are still limits, and it's expensive, and it's risk, and so and is it worth it? And so, but if you can send one of these guys down, and you don't have to worry about the pressure issues, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Oh man, that's as good as you get to a silver bullet.
Very, very true. John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we do have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. And of course, we are going to continue on with the fedora wearing John Hudson here on Spaced Out Radio. And we always appreciate when he brings us the unbiased UFO report. When we come back, John Ramirez, Lou Elizondo, we're going to talk about both of them coming on up on the unbiased UFO report. We're also going to get to Shirky Poo's news, as some pretty funny stories happening in the last 24 hours. Spaced Out Radio continues with the final half hour of the show right after this. Stay tuned. Rodef Shalom, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's channel. Thank you for joining us. GFG. Hey, it's been a while, man. Hope you're doing okay over there. And thank you. Says we're the best in the business. I don't know if we are, but, you know, we try and put on a good show. Thank you, though, for the kind words. Holy cow, says, I took a dump on an alien's chest once. Don't judge me. I had to act or else I would have been done for. That is funny. That is funny. Welcome to our channel. I'm sorry. I just thought that was funny.
No, I'm just trying to imagine what would be the likely reaction to such an event, but that's just because I analyze too much. You know, alien's sitting there counting his options, like, well, I could react this way, I could react that way. That last time I overreacted, and the therapist said I shouldn't do that anymore, but boy, it felt good.
Just no filter. Just no filter. That's what I love about you, buddy. That's what I love about you.
That's funny stuff.
I'm going to be up at 7 for hockey practice.
Oh, yeah. I got to say, Dave, in a couple weeks, maybe months, when all the emotion has drained out, I really want to sit down with you, and I want you to explain to me all the stuff that's going on in Canada. I'm so confused. And I've been holding back, not asking you now, because I know it's all very emotional for everyone. But boy, do I want to understand what's going on, man. I am so baffled. It is hard to watch.
I'm going to use a tweet from someone who I've been following on this. And this person has been filming since day one. And it's a verified account at the Viva Frey, Frei. All right. And their tweet at 3:01 this afternoon reads, I've spent 12 days live streaming from Ottawa. I did not see one shred of violence until police showed up. So the dictator has put in what we call the Emergencies Act, which in layman's terms could be called martial law, given himself all the power and the authority to do so. The funny part about it is the Ottawa police started today to take down the protesters and move the trucks. The problem with that is the Emergencies Act hasn't been debated in our parliament yet.
Oh.
But Trudeau is hiding behind the fact that because he enacted the Emergencies Act, that he can say and do what he wants and give any orders that he needs to.
The thing I find fascinating about all of this is that the optics on this for Canada isn't good. And not that it should be, because it's a horrible situation. So I don't mean to make light of it. But my point is that situations like this are chances to show you your spine. And I think a lot of us are this is unfortunately is going to start changing people's opinion of Canada, which I don't want to be happening, because I got the blood in me as well.
Look, here's a couple things that I want to say, and I don't talk. Let's talk about this after the show.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's talk about this after the show, because I do have some things that I want to say about this. And it's probably a good time to get it off my chest. So, yeah.
Cool. That'd be good to hear. That'd be good to hear. I gotta say, it's really good that photographer was saying those things, because there's always different points of view in any of these events, and and you got to get as many cameras and as many people observing
Well,
these.
we got to get going here, John. Sorry.
Yep. No worries.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire, checking out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the unbiased UFO report. We're getting to a story here, John, where John Ramirez, who's a former CIA officer, and Lou Elizondo were talking a little bit about, Roswell, history, things like that. Why don't you fill us in?
Well, so first of all, it should be made very clear that what we're referring to is a very well edited video that basically sticks several different videos together in the exact way I would have. And I want to be very clear. I don't think it was deceptive at all. But basically what he does is as he gets to the part in one person talking where they talk about some subject, he cuts to that other area, right? And so essentially, basically everything that's in this video is stuff that's been published elsewhere, right? And so what he does is he goes through and he cuts, portions of it out to kind of show at least one of the threads that goes through. And so it gives the impression that that maybe some people were talking directly that maybe weren't talking directly. So you got to kind of pay attention to the backgrounds and make sure that you're paying attention to the way it goes. But what you said is dead on, in that essentially what we have is a bunch of breadcrumbs that have been dropped by Lou Elizondo about Roswell, about DNA, about human evolution and so forth. And then you have this presentation that John Ramirez has done, and I think most recently, I think he was on the Black Vault. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. I assume it's very good. I've seen all of his other talks, and I've been able to see his presentation elsewhere as well. And the thing about his presentation that you have to remember is that this presentation was submitted to the CIA long before we saw it. And they went through it line by line, and they allowed him to show it to us. Now, that is not to imply endorsement by the CIA of any of the concepts in his presentation. It's just to say that nothing in his presentation violated any secrecy rules, laws, any of his NDAs, anything like that, right? So there was nothing in there that they felt was sensitive, okay? But in this presentation, what Ramirez does is he starts to kind of stitch together a possible narrative to explain how all these little breadcrumbs could stick together. And basically what he says is that I want to be really clear that, I'm reporting this as what was said by John Ramirez. And so, take that for what it is. But basically what John Ramirez says is that he was told that it was learned that humans are hybrids, And that's not to say that some are hybrids or that there's a hybrid program. It's to say that all humans are hybrids, that all humans have a portion of alien DNA in them. And when asked how this was learned, he basically said that it's not clear to him exactly how it was learned, but that it was implied to him that this was learned around the time of Roswell. And so he believes there was some uh, insinuation that essentially that there may have been biological material recovered at that point that gave us a genetic sample that then allowed us to then determine that we have that same sort of DNA in our own DNA. That's kind of what he implies, but it's strung together. I mean, you have to follow his thread. But the thing is that whether you believe him or not, whether you want to believe in any of this or not, whether you even want to be discussing this or not, this is a hell of a thing for us to be talking about at all, right? And this is an amazing thing for us to be talking about at all. And it's an even more amazing thing for John Ramirez to be discussing this in the very matter-of-fact, pragmatic way that he does. And he's careful. John's a careful guy. I mean, I've said before, one of the things I love about him is that he's very clear in his presentations what he learned on the job and what he is extrapolating based on what he knows in his own personal experience, right? So he's very clear about that, but it is still very provocative, very thought-provoking content.
John, when did this interview take place?
Well, the thing is that all of these, I believe, all of these interviews that were stitched together in this montage, I believe they were all recorded in the last 6 months, maybe in the last 3 months. I know John Ramirez only came out with his full hybrid presentation, within the last, I think it was, honestly, it feels like less than 90 days. It might be more than that, to be honest with you. I should check.
The existence of John Ramirez on the UFO topic has come out of nowhere over the last 3.5, 4 months. For people who may not know who he is and why is he significant?
So John Ramirez is a retired CIA officer, 25 years, heavily decorated, very well spoken of, very well vouched for, held some very senior roles in some very exploratory units and groups, and did some fine work and was awarded for it. But he is also a lifelong experiencer, and so as a result, he is now taking what he's experienced and what he learned, and he's basically he's poking the bear. One of the things that he talks about, which is another thing that I honestly really adore in this individual, because I love this kind of behavior, is he tries to get his presentations redacted. He intentionally puts stuff in there that he thinks will get redacted because he wants to see where that edge is. He wants to see, because he wants to dance on that edge. And you can't dance on an edge if you can't find it. And so and what keeps happening to him is he keeps putting this stuff in the presentation and they don't redact any of it. So, like, what do you do with that, right? Now, there's other things in it that are almost as challenging as what I've already said. One of the things he talks about is the fact that it was basically told to him that while everyone is a hybrid, that there are variations in the percentage of hybrid DNA that anyone has, right? And that there are families that are known to have higher percentages of basically off-world DNA in them, and that these families are tracked for some reason, which is a weird thing to bring up. But,
do you think it has anything to do with the Rh negative blood, or is it just anybody who is having this DNA shifted?
Yeah, I don't, that whole Rh negative thing, I think is blown way out of proportion. It's true for a lot of people. It's also not true for a lot of people. It's not this silver bullet that I think a lot of people think it is. And the thing is that what the thing is that we know our DNA. We've looked at our DNA. We know what's in it, and to us it looks normal-ish, right? It looks Earth-ish, And so, if there are portions of it that match something we would find in an off-world entity, that basically means there's a very direct relationship between that entity and our planet as well. Right. So it kind of ties us all together in a way when you really get down to it. Right. But one thing I wanted to just kind of address is that, people have asked about John Ramirez and his clearances and his NDAs and so forth. And why hasn't he lost his statute? Well, he's read out. I mean, he doesn't hold a clearance anymore. Obviously he still is under responsibilities for what he does, but this is the whole reason why he is so aggressive with them when he produces anything. Every time he makes a change to his presentation, he sends it to them. And he doesn't show it to anyone until he waits, until he gets it back from them, and he reads what they wrote. So he's playing this so perfectly by the book. So I mean, and he's not just playing it by the book at a minimalist. What do I have to do to not be noticed? He's actually playing it by the book and playing it out to take advantage of those features, right? He's actually getting something out of it, right? He's getting them to basically qualify his data for him and to draw an edge for him so he knows where to play.
Do you think, though, that he has a lot of internal secrets regarding the UFO phenomena that he is trying to get out there, much like Luis Elizondo, where Elizondo has come out basically saying, look, ladies and gentlemen, read between the lines of what I'm saying. I'm giving you enough Easter eggs. Do you think John Ramirez is playing that game as well?
To a degree, yes, but I think it's a very different situation because I think most of what Lou is aware of, he learned on the job. Whereas I think most of what John Ramirez is aware of, he did not learn on the job.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Why should we believe John Ramirez? Okay, it's the same question that has been asked of Elizondo, of Mellon, of Rick Doty, and other CIA-type people who have come out regarding this topic.
Well, I mean, off the cuff, you don't, but, after you do a background check on him, you trust him a little more. After you listen to one of his talks and you check out a couple of things he said and they all flush out, you trust him a little more. It's a process like it is with any human.
Mm-hmm. I get that, but with the point that I'm getting at here, Johnny, is when it comes to the spooks, ex-spooks, current spooks, or whatever, they haven't over time been the best friends of ufology.
I would argue that even that assertion was based on a very, very small sample set. But yes, I do agree that that's a perception.
I know you're always a half cup or a half glass half full kind of guy.
Well, I am also in full support of the intelligence agency.
You're in support of them.
Oh yes, I've worked with them.
Well, you're biased then in an unbiased show.
No, yeah, I mean, but that's the way it plays out. Yeah.
My friend, Thank you for a great, unbiased UFO report, ending with your bias. I appreciate that. It's always good. John Hudson, the fedora-wearing one, can be heard on the After Hours show every weekend with Big Willie, Thin Lizzy, and Gemma Jade. Good to have you with us. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. Let's see what Shirky Poo's got for us tonight. Video games are a lot of fun, and exciting action can really pull you into the gameplay, but you really should still keep your surroundings in mind. A Canadian Twitch streamer had to learn the hard way, going by the name of Woosby, recently got a reminder of that. His calls for help while playing Apex Legends resulted in police officers suddenly showing up on his stream. Apex Legends is a first-person shooter video game whose default game mode pits 20 teams of 3 players against each other in a battle royale-style fight to the death. Players must use their characters' unique abilities and scavenge the huge battle map for weapons and equipment. As such, communication is essential to victory, and most teams talk to each other over microphones. They'll discuss strategy, call out enemy positions, sometimes have to plead their teammates for help. So when the fighters clash and guns start blazing, it's no wonder things can get a little bit rambunctious. Yeah, this is exactly what happened to Woosby, who found himself doing this during a stream. Yeah, what happened? Well, he clearly forgot that he wasn't actually in a battlefield. He was sitting in his room with his window open. And a little while later, the man got a real surprise as the RCMP showed up and tapped him on his shoulder. Woosby's shocked reaction was broadcast live to the world through Twitch. "How are you? Are you streaming right now?" the officer asked Woosby. When he confirmed that he was indeed in the middle of a game, the cop continued his questioning. "Did you scream help at some point?" "Maybe, yeah, for content," Woosby replied, drawing a hearty chuckle from the police. The streamer showed his setup in an ongoing game to the cops, who also waved at the undoubtedly bewildered audience. "Hi, guys. If you scream for help online and have a window open, we will come," one of the officers said, offering some helpful advice to any streamer. It turns out someone on the street had heard Woosby yell and assumed that he was in trouble. Kudos to them for being a responsible citizen and calling the cops. Nobody was actually under fire, though. The police wished Woosby luck with his streaming and promptly left the game, and he continued to play. All right, next. See, I'm always giving you warnings. Don't go in the ocean. There's things out there that want to kill you, but nobody ever believes me because you're still doing it. Just a few days ago, dude gets mauled by a great white. They found little pieces of him all over the place in Australia. Now, a TikTok user took a video or took to the video sharing site to recount the story of how she won a confrontation with a lemon shark that had latched onto her foot by punching it repeatedly in the face. Heather West, known as @Wild Witch of the West with a 3 instead of an E on West, said in a series of videos posted to the site that she was snorkeling off Dry Tortugas National Park with friends last month, and they intended to head to Loggerhead Key to visit the Little Africa Reef, but turned back due to choppy conditions. West said that she was the last member of her party in the water when she felt something tug on her foot. "I immediately turned, and when I did, I felt something snatch my foot. My brain couldn't really comprehend what was going on, although I thought one of the guys had grabbed my foot trying to scare me." Well, she realized it was a shark grasping onto her toes and her flipper when it started to pull, and its teeth went right through the rubber to break her skin. West said she used her fist to repeatedly punch the shark in the face until it let go, a struggle that lasted about 30 seconds. "As soon as I got on the beach," she said, I look down and see that my foot is still there, so I get really excited and started screaming like, I won, I won, I won. Careful, the RCMP will show up. West then said the damage to her foot was severe, so she was taken to Key West via seaplane for medical treatment, took 20 stitches to repair her tendons. She believed that the shark was a lemon shark, which are generally considered the least dangerous species of shark, according to and accounting for the smallest percentage of attacks worldwide. I'm telling you, people, if it has shark in its name, it's going to eat you. Stay out of the ocean. Even an inch. You will survive. Trust me. A restaurant has been left devastated after a prankster booked out nearly every seat in the place for Sunday afternoon. Rafters at Riverside House sits in a lovely Peak District village of Ashford in the water near to Bakewell. Yeah. However, that doesn't mean that they can afford to have the entire Sunday ruined by one person fraudulently booking the whole place. In total, they reckon they are out about £4,000. Owner Alistair Myers certainly believes that the bookings are malicious. We had a no-show last Saturday who we tried to call, but it kept ringing out, so we thought it was a bit suspicious, and we confirm all our future bookings during the week. A courtesy call about dietary requirements, allergies, so we can prepare. So, apparently, they are now open booking quickly. And finally, tonight, when you're transferring money to a friend, there's always the temptation to get a little creative with the reference. But if you need a cautionary tale, apparently the banks don't like it. Man revealed that he got a stern message from his bank after he made a few jokes while sending his mate some cash. Yeah, in a post on Reddit, the man, only known as Joe, shared a screenshot of his stern email he received. It explained that while he understood he was probably just messing about, he should think again before trying to be a comedian and sending money to people. Yes, his bank told him off. Hey, at least he's not in Canada where they're freezing accounts for no reason. Thank you to Fedora John, Shirky Poo for the news, Swamp Dweller for the stories, and Dr. Wilbur Allen for a great show tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Solid show. Solid show. All right. Let's take those off. Fedora John had to get going, so he can't stick around. Hello, gorgeous Jean Beckett. How are you? Thanks for showing up. Mr. Numbnuts, I hope you're starting to get some feeling down there. It's always a good thing when you do. Super Quest is like, yeah, Captain. Treat them like a peaceful protest. Carfanibre, how you doing? Oli, good to see you. All right. Let me just get everything set up here. Any questions for all of you tonight? Please do me the favor and ask away. Put them in capital letters. I would greatly appreciate that because it makes it easier for myself to read them. And that would be really cool if you could. Let's go here. No, wrong one. Give me 2 seconds here, guys. Save there. Go there. Nice there. All right. Hi, gorgeous wagon breadth. November 3rd. The gorgeous Teresa. Yeah, my hair only looks long because I got it flat ironed yesterday. That's all. Lots of woo tonight, guys. Lots of woo. All right. Did you see the video of the great white attacking the swimmer? I didn't see the video. I saw still photos of it. I'm still waiting for that. Hi, Nikki. I do want to see that, though. I don't know why my morbid curiosity wants to watch that dude get chomped. Michael Fontaine, I don't see your question. If you could repost it, that would be great. Because when I'm reading the news, I'm not even looking at the chat room. So it's not a surprise that I missed it at that point. Hi, Thurston Howell the Third. Yeah, if you could repost that, please. And sometimes, just so you know, on my StreamYard here, it kind of goes by top comments, not the live comments. So a lot of times I will actually miss questions that are there, and I just do not see them. I had one former listener get really pissed off at me about it, thinking that I was specifically missing his questions, and I honestly never saw them. And then I figured it out why. It's because we're on the top chat rather than the live chat in the chat room here. So that's why it was happening. I want to know if you could share anything at all from the private Facebook group with some aviary and major players. I don't know what chat group you're talking about. I really don't. Conflict Radio, how you doing? I need to get you on my show ASAP. Sure. You know how to get a hold of me. I think you have my phone number, don't you? Do sharks swim up the Fraser River? There has been known times where it's happened, and it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. It doesn't happen often because the water of the Fraser is usually pretty cold for sharks to come up. It's not like the Mississippi River where you can see like bull sharks swimming like 300-400 miles up the river. It's not like that at all. But there has been sharks spotted, very rarely though. Nowhere I would go anyways. I know which chat room he's talking about. And I know nothing. Nothing. Sarfati and Putoff are not in that group. I can, at least in the chat that I know about. That's right, Big J. You can't win a war if you don't own the night. We're doing our best. Hey, Nucker, how you doing? All right. I was going to talk about I want to be careful because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube regarding this. I would consider myself, and I'm going to talk politics here for a couple of seconds, guys, because there's a lot of shit going on in Canada right now. And I have never, ever seen Canada this divided in my life. And I'm going to be honest with you, it hurts me. It hurts me bad. We don't up here do the whole patriot thing. I did, Gloria. Yes, I did. We don't do the whole patriot thing like you guys so proudly do south of the border. I would consider myself, so anybody knows where I stand, and I've never really said where I stand. I would consider myself a hybrid between a conservative and a liberal. I am very liberal thinking in my ways regarding diversity, regarding the legalization of marijuana, even though I do not smoke marijuana. I know I'm the rare Canadian who doesn't. Love the smell, though. I am really about taking care of people. One of the things I love about this country is that we do take care of people. I can go to a hospital anywhere in Canada, and if something happens, I don't worry about a bill. I like that. I like the fact that we try and help each other out in a smaller population. I think a woman's body is her own right. A lot of conservatives don't agree with things like abortion or what have you. Okay, my attitude towards that is it doesn't matter because I'm not the woman who's been put through that situation. And there is on the flip side, the one, or I'll say this too. One of the beautiful things I love about Canada is the multiculturalism. It is amazing, and it is, for the most part, very respectful. It is, like, if I take my little community here, we have a large contingent of Africans who have come over here and moved to Canada. For some reason, they love our little town. Um, and we have a beautifully growing Sikh population here where the only thing I'm pissed off about is that they haven't opened an Indian restaurant yet, because I am craving samosas, and I know there are homemade samosas being made in my town, and I can't get my hands on any of them. That bugs me. And if you've had homemade samosas from an East Indian family or a Sikh family, oh my God, they're so good. I can't talk about it because I'm going to get hungry. I'm going to get hungry real fast if I continue with that. And I just love, the melting pots of societies that we have here in Canada. I really do. That being said, I'm a conservative in many ways as well. Okay, I'm a conservative when it comes to fiscal spending. I'm a conservative when it comes to business. Okay, I am someone who likes to see businesses do well, and I've seen and worked for a number of people where when they're doing well, it's made me do well. Um, so, I mean, I see both sides of the ledger. I do not believe that there should be a conglomeration of church and state. I think they need to be two separate factors. Um, you know, I do believe that, that there's a lot going on right now that isn't good for not only this country, but for a lot of countries around the world. I'll be honest with you. In the first election, Justin Trudeau ran. I voted for him because I really enjoyed him talking about it was time to get the old guard out of Ontario and bring in the newer generation of thinking. And the old guard, in my opinion, was thinking not Canadian conservative, but very American Republican. And not that there's anything wrong with that down south, but up here's a little bit different of a game. And almost immediately after voting for Trudeau, probably within 6 months, I regretted it. And I got a very, in my opinion, clear picture of what this leader was going to be like. I will say this, in my 48 years of life, it's only been the last 6 years that I have ever been disgusted with being Canadian. And what's happening in Ottawa right now thoroughly disgusts me. And the way so many people have reacted to everything, it hurts me. And I'll be honest with you guys, there's been a number of days over the last couple of weeks where I have cried and I am hurt. I don't like seeing people divided like this. This is not what Canada is about. Okay? I'm very proud to be Canadian. I mean, if you look there, I got a flag right in my window. I'm right here. Okay, I've got the tattoo of the maple leaf on my leg. I'm very proud of what we are and who we are, and that we've always been a country that has been able to work things out. Okay, and since Justin Trudeau took over, all it's been is segregation and driving people apart. Like I am, like I'll be honest with you. I'm a 48-year-old man. I can take a lot of stuff. My business partner in Spaced Out Radio is East Indian. I've known him for 20 years. He's one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. Okay. And when I hear a prime minister who is calling my fellow Canadians racist just because they're white men, I don't like that. It hurts me. What scares me more is not for me, because I'll always survive, but what hurts me more is, what are we doing to the children here? What kind of thoughts are we putting into children's head? I look at my 8-year-old son, and I look at that boy. He's in a multicultural school, okay? And he doesn't care if one of the children is East Indian or black or Chinese or white or whatever. Okay, he doesn't care. What he cares about is, will you play Transformers with me? And that's all that matters. And I'm hurt by this disgusting behavior that if you are a white person, that you're automatically racist. And what we're seeing in Ottawa, and it's all over social media, is disgusting. Right? It really is. Now, I don't condone violence unless it's on the ice, because hockey is about violence. It's a beautiful thing. Okay? And you know what? I know we'll get through this as a country. I do. But when I see bank accounts being frozen, or businesses being destroyed because they supported something that they believed in, all right, that's disgusting. It really is. When I see my fellow journalists, people that I worked with, going on Twitter and blowing out their opinion publicly of what they think is going on, I know that's affecting their reporting. Okay? Look, I'm not saying there wasn't any horrible flags in Ottawa. I'm not in denial of that. I see the bigger picture. Okay? But when you see a picture of a trucker or a politician going down there trying to calm the situation down, or learn about the situation, or support the situation, and in the background 50 feet you see some moron who should be in jail for carrying a Nazi flag, and immediately it goes on Twitter, and everybody's like, what are you doing down there supporting Nazis? You know what? My generation, I'm 48 years old, on to the younger generation today, has no fucking clue what a Nazi or a fascist truly is. We are throwing around that terminology like it's bacon and eggs. And I'm hurt by that, because until this Trudeau moron was elected, and I'm part of that problem because I saw him for change, all right, we never heard those words in Canada, ever. Look, I'm not saying there wasn't any racism and foul play like that in our country, because unfortunately there is, and there was, okay, and I'm disgusted by that. Okay, I don't put up with that. I don't hang out with people who do that. I don't want to associate with people doing that. Okay, I'm not naive to say it's not there, though, because unfortunately it's one of those ugly things that is there, and it shouldn't be, and we're trying to win on that. But this man, how anybody can support him for dividing a country for no reason, it's disgusting. And the fact that there are people out there who are supporting this, it's vile. Look, I'm not, okay. I got so many thoughts going through my head right now, okay, that I'm trying to say too much at once. I'm in support of the truckers' rally. I was not in support of the blockades of the border. I thought that was childish. I think if they would have protested along the sides of the border, that would have been great. That would have been great. Okay, but I want to get back to this photograph thing where we saw politicians and people and the truckers where these assholes were carrying around flags with swastikas on them. All right. There is a horrible part of society who thinks that's cool, or they're trying to, maybe they are in support of that garbage, or maybe they're just carrying it around because they want the protest to look bad. We don't know. But here's what I do know is a picture does not speak 1,000 words anymore. We are so quick on society to judge by a photo and judge by a snippet that we're not even looking at the big story anymore. I don't care who it is, okay? I'm not a supporter of one of the parties called the PPC, run by a guy named Maxime Bernier. I'm not a fan of his. I think the guy's a prick, okay? But I will say this, I don't think he's a Nazi. I don't think he's supporting that. Look, when somebody gets a photograph taken of them, that idiot with the flag could have been just walking by. And that doesn't mean that the person who is photographed is in support of that. And unfortunately, our prime minister and his government have said, well, you were down there. You're obviously supporting white nationalism and white supremacy and Nazism and all of this. And that's not true. That's not true at all. It's propaganda. And I'm disgusted with how many of my fellow Canadians have fallen for that propaganda. We used to see the bigger picture up here. Our journalists used to tell the proper story. The CBC, when the protests first started, was recorded on camera facing an area where there was very few protesters. And that's what they reported on. There wasn't many protesters showing up at all. Yet when the person who was filming this BS lie turned the camera 180 degrees, there was about 3,000 people there. It was ridiculous, right? Journalism is vile these days. And I'm disgusted with what my former career has become. It's horrible. It really is horrible. Look, like this person said on Twitter today, they were down there filming for 14 days and never saw any violence. Yet our prime minister has been saying that it's all been about violence, racism, swastikas, okay, Confederate flags. All right. So much so that a bunch of liberal Canadians, and I'm part liberal, remember that, have dubbed it on Twitter a hashtag called Flu Trucks Klan, which to me is a very racist statement and is disgusting how many people are throwing that around. Right? I will also say this, because I know there's going to be people commenting on this. I am vaccinated. I chose to get vaccinated. I did not want to get vaccinated, but I got vaccinated because I knew for Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures, our company, I needed to be able to get into the United States. And look, 3 of the next 5 months, I'm going to the United States. At the end of March, San Francisco, Las Vegas in April, and July in Colorado. I need to be there. Okay? I did it for the betterment of Spaced Out Radio. All right? Otherwise, I would be unvaccinated. We have a, people are supposed to be able to have a freedom of choice of what they want to do. All right? I know people who are vaccinated, who are some of the most lovely people in my life, and I know people who are unvaccinated, who are some of the most lovely people in my life. And I don't judge any of them. You make your choice. I will say this, that I never had any issues whatsoever by getting jabbed. Okay, I got Moderna both times. I have no issue with that. I have no issue with my health. I have no issue with anything. I'm not getting into the mask debate because that's not really what this is about. What this is about is what's happening in Ottawa right now. And what's happening in Ottawa literally scares the crap out of me, because I never thought in my lifetime that I would see a coward of a prime minister call in the heavy fists. This is a man who supported other protests, some which were much more extreme than others. This is a man whose government, let me find it here. This is actually kind of sickening. Where is it here? It was just trending. God, I hate it when stuff like this happens. It was just trending. Of course, Twitter's not going to let me go back. I hate it how it changes so quickly. Maybe it's here. I don't know. I'm sorry, I cannot find it. Anyways, I think our prime minister is a do as I say, not as I do person. It's my screen pins are flagged and my light for some reason on my camera flashes. I don't know why. But in all, I will say this. I am hurting as a Canadian. I hurt for my fellow Canadians. I'm not pointing blame at anybody except one person and one person only. Actually, make that two. A gentleman named who runs our party here called the NDP, or New Democratic Party, who his name is Jagmeet Singh. All right. I blame him for not supporting the conservative motion earlier this week, and then today whining that we need a motion to see when COVID will end, the mandates will end. Why didn't you do it 5 days ago? You're a liar. I think this is the Prime Minister's fault, 100%, and his party's fault, 100%. I'm not saying there was a lot of, I'm not saying there wasn't any bad people in Ottawa for this. There are people I wish were not involved, like a gentleman named Pat King, who is just way too out there for me. Right? Saw a lady on a with a walker today get run over and stepped on by a horse. They shut down people filming in the truckers section. Police were arresting a trucker. They moved him to the back of their SUV. And a minute later, you see one of the police officers literally throwing right hands inside the vehicle as fast as he could on this trucker. That's not Canada. That's not what we stand for. And I'm hurt by that. I'm very hurt by it. I'm tired of being called a terrorist because I have a differing opinion. Not me personally, but for me and my fellow Canadians. A misogynist because we support different idealisms than the Prime Minister. A racist and white supremacist because we support different thought and freedom of thought. Look, the word freedom, though, is something that we have to think about. I think it's being used way too generously. All right. We can still travel. There are certain things that certain people can't do. If you're unvaccinated in certain provinces, you can't go to a restaurant or a movie. See, this is the bullshit right here, saying that I got red pilled. What does that even mean? What does that mean? Right? I know, GFG. I know, dude. I know we're going to be okay. But I'm telling you right now, man, I am a hurting man. I am a hurting man. And I think that the people in the end will win. I really do. And I think that in the end, we're going to be okay. And I think in the end, we're going to be fine. I really do. I agree with you on that. Okay? I totally agree with you on that. I just want to make sure that people know that many of us are hurting. We are hurting right now. We're hurting for our citizens. We're hurting about the lies. Okay? We're hurting about everything. Okay, red pill means you understand it's deep state. Oh, okay. I'm sorry for overreacting then. I apologize. I didn't know. All right? But we're hurting here. And it's one person's fault. And that person refuses to take responsibility and wants to put blame on everybody else. And the world is starting to see that the poster boy for woke is not as clean as he wants to be. Remember, this is a guy who said publicly on camera, and you can go find it. It's right there where he said he admired the basic dictatorship of the country of China. That's truthful. There's a reason why six of our provinces have bowed down on the mandates. Okay? And for the record, for anybody, this is not an insurrection. Nobody's gone into the parliament buildings. Nobody has been there inciting violence. All right? inciting people to rush in on question period or anything like that. Nobody's done that. This isn't January 6th. The media wants blood in Canada. They want blood because when it bleeds, it leads. True story. Okay. I'm not worried about what happened in the States. That's for you guys down there to worry about. Me being Canadian doesn't matter. But up here, where people are saying this is an insurrection from internal Canadian terrorists, that's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. The other thing I want our American people to understand, our American listeners especially to understand, is Justin Trudeau runs a minority government. So in Canada, the House of Commons, we have 5 different parties who've been elected. There is the Liberals, there is the Conservatives, the NDP, which are like a unionist type party, but they've gone more woke than supporting the unions anymore, because if they actually supported the unions, they would actually be supporting their truckers, but they're not. You have the Bloc Québécois, who only worries about the province of Quebec. They're a separatist party. And you have the Green Party, where if you're not eating anything that's green, you're not worth it. And don't cut down the trees either. All right, so we got 5 parties. The Greens, I believe, only have 2 seats. Doesn't matter. All right. The Bloc Québécois sided with the Conservative Party in order to say, look, we don't want any type of emergency act to be pushed through. The Conservative Party last election had 35% of the votes, but because they didn't have enough seats, due to the fact that the city of Toronto dictates, and that metropolis area has like 54 seats. The province of Alberta alone, with 2 major cities, has a total of 34. You can see where I'm going. All he needed to do was win Vancouver, win on the Metro Toronto area, and win Quebec. That's all he needed. And the fringe votes out of the Maritimes. That's how he got in. Whoever gets the most seats wins. That's how he got in again. But in a minority government, for the prime minister to show such dictatorial leadership, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Right? And there's people getting blamed all over the place. Okay? And I hurt. My friends hurt. My family hurts. Talking to my dad the other day, he's 72. And he's like, I've never seen this before, son. Right? And a minority government, this person should not have the power to do what he is doing. Not at all. Should not have the power to do what he is doing. He has ruined Canada. He has ruined everything that is good about this country. He has divided people in the name of diversity. And it's been disgusting. He's ruined our economy. He never took care of the First Nations that he said was a priority the first time he got elected. It's terrible. And what he's done in this last week has really shown me his true colors. And I'm disgusted by that. And like I said, for people just turning in, I am a hybrid between a conservative and a liberal. I've voted for both parties. And I am disgusted to be a Canadian right now for the first time in my life. I love Canada. And I've never, ever wanted to leave Canada. But I'm not going to live in a country that supports this type of socialist attitude. And it sucks. Because I really do believe, in as much as I love the United States, I really do believe that Canada is the greatest country in the world. Okay? I'm not one of these people who bashes America or anything like that. I love the U.S. I have family down there. I have a ton of friends down there. I have, of course, the majority of our listenership is in the United States. Okay. But I'm disgusted to be Canadian right now. And that's just the way it is. It's how I feel. But I know on the positive side, we're going to get through this. We never lose. And the silent majority who's been quiet for way too long is starting to speak up. And with that, that gives me hope that it may take a month, it may take 6 months, but that everything is going to be okay. And people are starting to speak up. So the only thing I ask my fellow Canadians is whether you support it or whether you don't. Be polite. Be Canadian. Be who you feel that you need to be. But stop with the accusations. Stop with the horrendous comments that you're making about people. This moron will get ousted. There is no choice. We will, as a country, do the right thing. And we will get there. I love Canada. And we will be okay. We'll get there. Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup since '93. That's a curse. That's what I'm saying. So, if people who are listening to this think that I'm one of those horrendous slang words that you were using, I am not. Okay? I'm a Canadian. I'm a proud Canadian. And I know we will be okay. It just really hurts right now what we are doing to each other. That's what hurts. And once again, I will reiterate, I am vaccinated by choice. I do not have the tracker on my phone because the government doesn't need to know where I'm eating or what hockey game I'm attending. And my stomach is growling, if you can hear that. And I don't do anything that is going to get me in trouble. And that's where it comes down to. I hope that my fellow Canadians will be just as appreciative of my opinions as I am of theirs. And that's where I'm leaving it. We'll get through it. Any questions before I call it the night? I'll have pancakes tomorrow morning. It's our breakfast food. What we actually really do need in this country is a good old-fashioned bench-clearing brawl. That's what we need, a bench-clearing brawl. 416, it's Family Day on Monday. Message me on Sunday, and let's line up a phone call for Monday. And let's get that bench clearing brawl going. Because that's what we need. Not a riot. Don't need any riots. Don't need any thugs walking around. Let's just go on the ice and finish this like real Canadians. Right at center ice. Let's just do it. I'm game for that. Violence doesn't need to spill onto the streets, but it sure has its place on the ice. Let's do it. A good old Donnybrook, that's right. A brouhaha on the ice. So that's where we go. Exactly, Nicole. Canada needs a walk-off right now. We need a walk-off. On that note, a big thank you to Smithy, Tim, Black Triangle, Obi, Jeremy, Mystified, Todd, Surf Jer ×2, and Apollo for the amazing super chats. Yes, I do have my own teeth. This tooth here, though, got split in half. I only got half a tooth there. The front part survived. The back part didn't. That was an elbow to the chin. Bit my teeth. Gums knocked out, all bleeding, knocked out. Broke my nose. Didn't know where the hell I was. Yeah. Yeah, my rant's over. Thank you for letting me vent. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I was an enforcer when I played. Best job in the hockey world. Too bad it's a dying breed. Remember this weekend, Lynn Wallington will be here, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for 2 hours on Saturday and Sunday for Spaced Out Weekend. Following her, we have the After Hours show with Big Willie, Man in the Front, with fedora-wearing John Hudson, along with Gemma Jade and Thin Lizzy for After Hours on Saturday and Sunday, because we're here 7 days a week for you. I absolutely love you guys. Your love and support of this show. Fapster, thank you so much for adding to the super chat. Really do appreciate you, man. You're one of the best. And I really hope you make it to Vegas, dude. I really do. Look, another thing. March 20th, I need to know if you are going to be going to the Vegas trip or not for the fan get-together, because I got to make sure there is enough T-shirts and swag for everybody in order to get you guys a swag bag. So I need to know. I think we got 30 so far. So you have to go to info@spacedoutradio.com. Excuse me, I hiccuped. Info@spacedoutradio.com. Let them know. Thank you, Dry Toast. Best name on YouTube right there, Dry Toast. Still love that name. Would love to have you all out in Vegas, okay, for the party that we're going to have and get together. And that's April 22nd to 24th at the Golden Nugget. I'm recommending everybody stays there. Unfortunately, I didn't know how many people were going to be showing up, so I didn't get a promo code or anything like that for hotel rooms. I'm paying full pop too, okay, but it's going to be a good time. And the live show that we're going to be doing there is the live show that we're going to be doing there is the only thing we're charging for. We're charging $25 a person. And look, I'm not making money off of that. That's just to help pay the room costs that I took on. And not that I have an issue with that, but we'll make it good. So come to the Golden Nugget, hang out with us, and let me give you a list of who's coming to hang out with you guys. Tom Whitmore from MUFON, Nicole Sakic, which means Grant Cameron will probably be there. Rick Doty is going to be there. George Knapp, Science Bob, Jim Goodall, Michael Schratt, Lorian Fenton, Belinda Leslie, Geraldine Orozco. Lynn Wallington's going to be there. Ben and Joe from UFO Garage are going to be there. I believe Thin Lizzie's going to be there. Gemma Jade may be there. I know him. Nate Rudd and his son Hallmark Corey from WIBS, the Bigfoot team out of Washington State. They're going to be there. Bigfoot Michigan Rob is going to be there. Carter Bouchard is going to be there. We have like almost 20 people alone that are coming just to spend time with all of you listeners. And if you see one of us, just come on up, say hello. If you see us at the bar grabbing a drink, let's grab a drink together. It's all about fun, man. It's all about everything. Ethereal Aura, I hope you're feeling better, buddy. I've been sending you a lot of thoughts and prayers. You've been on my mind a lot, man. And I hope you're feeling better right now. So let's all get together. Vegas, April 22nd to 24th, Spaced Out Radio Party. If you are 100% going, please email us at info@spacedoutradio.com, info@spacedoutradio.com. That way we could get you a swag bag for coming on down, and it's going to be great. Absolutely great. And I'm so looking forward to meeting all of our fans and hanging out with some great people who I only get to talk to on a microphone basis or a telephone basis. I mean, this is going to be fun. I want this to be an annual event. And you know what? As we grow, we're going to make more of them. If we keep growing the way we are, we will make more over the years. We'll do one on the East Coast. We'll do one wherever. Maybe we'll do one of those cruise things, even though I hate ships and boats in the ocean. We'll figure it out. We have ways to do it. There's lots of options, right? I would love to do one in Toronto. Excuse me. I would love to set something up with our radio station out there and do a spaced out radio event there. You know, so let's give it a try. Let's have some fun and enjoy your weekend. I will be back on Monday. Brian Stavely will be my guest. We're going to be talking to the Mandela effect. I'm very much looking forward to that. It'll be a nice break in topics. And good night, everybody. Have some fun. Somebody grab the trumpets if you don't mind, because we're about to fire it up. you.